Good. Right. Good evening, everybody. I have 6:01, so I will open up the Mashpee Conservation Commission meeting for Thursday, January 11th, 2024. Tonight, we are meeting in the Jehu Meeting Room, Mashpee Town Hall, 16 Great Neck Road North. This meeting is being broadcast via Zoom. I will not read the long URL, but for those that might want to Zoom in, it's meeting ID 856-0848-9089 with a passcode of 915347. Before we do begin, if you would like to join me in a pledge of allegiance to the flag, be my guest. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I would like to start this evening with a moment of silence for all people throughout New England and the greater area that are suffering from the tremendous flood problems that we've been experiencing, especially in our most recent storm. And hopefully everyone fares well in Saturday's event that's coming. First on the agenda is a slot here for public comment. And so if there's anybody from the public that would like to comment on any issues that are not related to agenda items that are presently listed for tonight's meeting, this would be the time. So if there is someone who would like to address the commission, somebody here in the room physically. Drew, is there anybody on Zoom?
No, everyone who's on Zoom is there for hearings.
So we're good on public
Yes.
comment. Okay. I'm going to forego the pre and post hearing agenda items and come back to those and go directly to our first scheduled hearing. This is a 6 o'clock hearing for 275 Quiniquisette Avenue, Southwark Mashpee Properties LLC. This is for a proposed construction and maintenance of a 14 single-family home with paved driveway, sidewalk, drainage systems, and associated utilities. Representative is Baxter Nye Engineering and Surveying. This is a notice of intent. I do not have the file numbers here, but I think we're okay.
43-3237.
Thank you. Okay. In opening up this hearing, I will mention to the commissioners, and I think you probably are aware of this anyways, there's been quite a bit of information submitted by Matthew Eddy in response to the LEC peer review, that we have the preliminary peer review. A lot of this information came in very recently, yesterday, in fact, today, right up until this afternoon. So I'm going to admit the information into the record. We will not deliberate on the contents of that because I feel as though there's insufficient time for the people to have seen, read that, digested it, and be ready to ask any questions. And there is a request by Baxter Nye Engineering for the applicant to continue this hearing to February 15th.
At 6:48.
6:48.
Yeah.
I'm starting at 6:30, so it's not that bad.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh,
good point.
Let me just get that turned down. 6:48. Okay, so I would accept a motion for the request of that continuance to 6:48 to 2:15.
So moved.
Thank you, Steve.
Second.
Thank you, Alex. Is there any discussion amongst commissioners on the motion? You're clear on the rationale for why and everything, we're good. Okay, then I will take a vote. Alex?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well, so that motion carries unanimously. Drew, I have a message on my phone from Marjorie Clapper. I think she might be interested in connecting. Hold on a second.
You would be showing up on here automatically.
Sorry, I believe the link can resend. If you have that link, could you send that to her? Taking care of that, I'm going to move to the 603. Here, we finished up the vote on that, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, we did,
We
yeah.
did. And then this next in the record.
Yep.
Going to open up the 603 hearing for 112 Waterline Drive South. Stephen and Tina Mariano. This is a proposed construction of a new garage with a one-bedroom apartment with septic system upgrade to 5-bedroom. Representative is Marsh Matters Environmental. This hearing has been continued from November 16th, 2023. It is a notice of intent, and I believe we have a request
Yeah.
from the engineer to continue.
They
this.
requested they needed more time because their project as a whole was gonna have an issue with zoning. So they decided to change the whole entire project, layout, everything. So they're just waiting for the engineer to finalize.
They realized the zoning issue and they're changing the layout.
Yeah.
Okay, and that request was to when? Was it 2:15 as well?
Yep, 2:15 at 6:39.
6:39. Okay. I accept the motion for that.
So moved.
Thank you, Steve.
Second.
Thank you, Alex. Any discussion amongst commissioners on the request? Hearing none.
Hang on, I do have one question.
Yes,
How much of the project would need to be changed for it to be a different project? Like, would we ever? If they come back with a completely different proposal, is it still just under the same filing?
It'll be under the same filing. In this case, they are going to have an addition instead of a brand new building.
I see.
So we thought that since that's gonna be basically better for the resource
Yeah.
area, that was better going that route.
Okay. Sounds good.
good. Any other questions? No?
I sent that to Marjorie, so let's see.
Okay, see if she.
Yeah,
joins us For the next hearing. I don't- no?
Yeah.
Okay, then I will take a roll call vote. Alex?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well, so that motion also carries unanimously, 2:15, 6:39. Okay, I will now call the 606 hearing. I have 609, so we're good. This is for 279 Monument School Road, CF Realty Trust. This is a proposed raise and replace of an existing single-family home, proposed garage, shed, landscaping, walkway to existing dock, and mitigation planting. Representatives, Wet Tech Land Design Incorporated and Collins Site Services LLC. This is a notice of intent. And you have the file number on that, too?
This one is
I'm sorry.
43.3264.
433264. Four, three, six, two, Alex. Four, three, two.
Yep.
6 2. It'll play the lottery, right? Okay. Good evening. If I can have your name, address for the record, and then you can present.
William Coley of Coley Site Services. Bernice Waller.
Bernice Waller, I'm the owner of Bernice Waller Landscape, practicing in Sandwich.
Okay.
Wayne Tavares, Wet Tech, working on a site.
Three different presenters.
And I'm my wife and I have a property owners.
Okay, great. So are you going to start, sir?
Yes, we're representing practically a 279 Monument Square. The project is a raise and rebuild of a 970 square foot existing 3-bedroom home. And replacing it with a 1,792 square foot home with no increase in bedrooms with a new nitrification septic system. The nitrogen loading will be reduced by approximately 50% by installing a new denitrification septic system, adding dry wells for water runoff from the plant's roofs, and reducing lawn area from 10,120 square feet to 4,747 square feet. Mitigation plantings will be added, which will be 25% of the existing lot, whereas there's no existing native plants existing now. The proposed home also addresses the issue of the groundwater recharge. The new home will utilize the area within the foundation walls as additional flood storage capacity. The proposed foundation, as required, incorporates flood vents to mitigate hydrostatic pressures to the structure. By placing 1 foot of stone in place of an impervious concrete slab will allow additional flood storage capacity to what currently exists, lowering the actual lot coverage by 75 square feet, or increasing 75 square feet the flood capacity. So we believe the proposal should be considered for approval for those reasons, lowering the nitrogen mitigation plantings and the water storage capacity. That's it.
Hi, I'll talk a little bit about the mitigation planting. I did provide handouts. This is just a colored version of the, is it, okay, I need that. Colored version of the planting plan that is in your package, a little bit smaller so that it's easier for you to read in these tiny quarters. But basically what we're doing is we're really looking to bolster the main buffer strip between the main residence and the source and the water line. So we're showing on this plan anywhere from 20 feet to 48 feet buffer. That is up against the existing seawall of native vegetation. A lot of the vegetation that we're using, we focused in on plants that provide a lot of soft berries, which are great for the birds, habitat, and so we have locust blueberry, honeysuckle, we have plethora, which has a great, really great for the bees. Couple different of native viburnums and a little bit of a swamp azalea in areas where we need to provide a little bit of shade. We've also used native grasses, switchgrass, and prairie dropseed, and those are in there really to kind of replicate what we feel like is a natural kind of ecosystem that would happen along a water body like this. We're also showing cedar trees, 7 native eastern red cedar trees that are happening along the property line that will provide additional habitat for birds. If you have any questions?
Get the other people that they do plan to speak, sir. Why are you gonna?
Because I'm here mainly for a rebuttal of any of these situations. I do want to say, however, that FEMA in its own right has done a tremendous job in respect to these low island areas. So when they lifted the house, they are demanding us lift the house. The owner has lifted an extra foot off of what Mashpee is. The breakaway foundation addressing area is reiterating sort of what Bill has said. The pass through of the known potential storm damage is minimal, and we've added a stump basically in the entire house. So we have excellent cause for not having any flood damage in this area. This is basically on FEMA. So this is still water flooding. This is not velocity zone flooding. Representing cases where not a lot is velocity zone and half a lot is still water. This is all still water flooding. So the denitrification system is higher in the profile. The fertilization is down. We use the effect of gas 6 inches of foam as requested by Mashpee. We're doing everything in the right way. But the owner, the new owner, is an arborist, certified arborist, and he is certainly going to follow through on this plan. You have the right person in the right position. There is no other way to do this. The way that it's been shown, there's been many iterations, and the consensus of the group this year, the professionals that are here, we've changed and modified, reacted to the different roles, and the waivers that are expected in both the chapter 172 bylaw that is Mashpee's, and also, obviously, chapter 310, CMR. So, we address all these issues in an addendum to you, and I'd rather speak to them only if need be spoken to. But I don't see a better scenario before this board than what appears right now. Size of house doesn't matter. What happens here is that the prerequisites of building this house have changed and modified according to all the performance standards are improved. Water used to rush around the old house. It now rushes through the new house. It rushes through the respective garage that they're using, that proposing. Vegetation has exceeded the vegetation required on the table of Mashpee. I think it's taken many times in other projects. And it has gone up actually, and we've responded to that new table. The amount of lawn has half or less than half, actually it's about 5% of what it was. So we're down to a maximum, what we call it, conservation plan rather than a maximizing of the lot. We're certainly within the ZBA's density mode, and everything here conforms. So I'm here to rebut any other challenges to this proposal. It's an excellent proposal. I personally wouldn't see it better any other way. We have two heads on this, as opposed to our personal one. So we're doing a lot of good things to this lot. Ask the board to approve this as proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to present?
I was gonna say, one of the biggest things, with this project is creating, more space for, land, so flood water to, be allowed back into the ground. So, removing the concrete floor and putting a foot of stone in the basement allows that to happen. And we have some numbers there, but basically the foot of stone holds before anything is penetrated into the ground, almost 5,500 gallons of water. So the holding capacity of the footprint within the house is added to the storage capacity for flood water. And in fact, going from the existing house to the new house, you actually regain 75 square feet of additional land that can be taken stormwater.
So I guess all the testimony in advance, so we can begin with questions or comments or concerns. I'll open it up first to commissioners. And then just so like the protocol, I will then go to the general public. I will read in any letters or comments that have been submitted to the commission for the record. And then I will go to our agent, Drew, to give his comments and recommendations on the project. There might be some follow-up questions from the commissioners at that point, and then we should be able to hopefully wrap things up. So first I will go to the commissioners for any questions or comments that you may have. I have a few myself, but I can hold off and wait.
Anything?
Where you want me to go?
Just go.
Okay. All right, so, did you guys file for ZBA yet?
Yeah,
And it was approved, we approved it with the condition of conservation. Okay. So you guys asked for a waiver, what is the Caspelli need? For the regulations, there has to be a compelling need, and then rare and unusual case, so what is the compelling need, and what is the rare and unusual case?
Compelling need is that the house has reached, the existing house has reached its, what about its life expectancy, and a new house is to be placed on this lot. The new house is still within the coverage zone of what the ZBA allows. Although it's larger in size, it's still 3 bedrooms. And it's been raised, all the benefits, I've already talked about all the benefits of this lot. So the compelling need is to replace a house that is obsolete, that's the word I was looking for. And a house that's at ground level is being raised. Again, it has no bearing on size, it has bearing on relationship to storm damage.
So what is the compelling need to double the size of the house?
It's not being doubled, it's.
Almost
being-
double.
By
Compelling
today's,
need is it's up to standards. You
by
want-
today's standards, it's a very small house. Everything about the house doesn't meet any type of code. It's got a full basement, which is below the floodplain. Flood water can come in, it gets displaced, all the utilities are in the basement.
Yeah, I understand that, but you're doubling the size of the house and you're adding a barn, so what is the compelling need to double the size of the house and add a barn? When you have a footprint that you can, that's already there, then you do 2 stories, why does the house need to be doubled and a barn be added?
I mean,
So that's,
We've addressed this in an addendum. We have this, put the waiver under the regulation, and this is regulation 12 that you're talking about. So what we're doing is we're just addressing, one, how compelling is the need. I think we're addressing it because it brings it up to modern standards in a conservation framework. Again, size doesn't matter here. Number 2, to what degree that, I'll try to get ahead of you, what degree is the normal standards being asked to be put aside? There are none to be put aside because we're following FEMA regulations. We're taking the footprint and making it smaller. We're allowing water to pass through and under the structure. We're allowing for a sump where there was sump. So these are improvements. The compelling need is to go up to standards, but not just to raise the existing house for where its size is. We have zoning regulations that state that we can go to 20% of this lot. We're up at 18%. Yeah, it's an increase.
Yeah, sure. I think part of it too is that the floodplain isn't the only issue that we're dealing with,
We
right?
know,
So,
we know.
so the proposed barn is within 35 feet of the salt marsh. That's a little bit concerning. The deck, the appurtenances, that's all within, 30 feet of the existing seawall. So we're dealing with other resource areas besides simply the floodplain.
Mhm.
You can make your compelling need and how you're adhering with the floodplain, but we also have conservation regulations, right? Which is why we're here, but aside from what zoning approved, what FEMA would approve. So I think that's what Steve is getting at.
Okay,
so
so,
all of the pre-existing non-conformities that you just mentioned are all improved with the new plan.
And enlarged.
What
Right?
improved?
Sure.
can I just say one comment?
Hold on 1 second.
When,
Did you?
So yeah, it's that, and then I had a question about the plantings that are in the front towards the road. Are those being counted towards mitigation?
The plantings on, yes, the circles that you see that are the viburnum and the grasses are being planted towards, counted towards mitigation.
Right, so it's 49 or 490 square feet, of mitigation, and typically we require the mitigation plantings to be as close to the resource area as possible, so that they're not typically placed on the other side of the property. So in this case, it would be along the side, either where the barn is, built like that side, or it would be closer to where the deck and the patio are.
Yeah.
So it's pretty regular, it's something we request.
I understand. What we are doing is recognizing that there is access and an area around the structure that we need to get around, and then we're basically buffering the entire lot with both current almost every side that we can. We are connecting that to an existing greenway as well, so it is not necessarily an isolated patch of mitigation in that particular area, but it does abut up to existing greenway.
I'd like to just inject a clarification question. I'm looking at this, plant plan, and I'm looking at the existing seawall, and it appears as though you've got a lot line drawn straight up to that seawall.
Yeah.
And then the seawall extends beyond the lot line. Is that part of the owner's property, or is that part of the town of Mashpee?
That is not, there was some pre-discussions that we had with the town that it would be favorable for us to go ahead and remove the lawn that is in that area and go ahead and put mitigation planting in within that area.
So that part of the concrete seawall is on town property.
Yeah, that's something I, the investigator, I guess, I didn't realize until I saw
I'm
the
just
plan.
looking at this, and I
Yeah.
didn't see this either,
Right.
in anything that was submitted ahead of time.
Yeah,
That's an issue that's gotta be resolved,
yeah, definitely, we'll be sure to look into it.
because those, is there an agreement between, I mean, I haven't been
I
notified of
didn't-
any
I didn't
agreement
know.
with mitigation on town property.
Yeah, I haven't done any research because I'm just now.
So as far as I'm concerned, for tonight's hearing, I'm just putting my thumb over that, because that doesn't exist, that's not. part
We're
of-
happy to remove that, that mitigation, we're happy to remove that planting. We thought that there was an understanding that we should do it. We can just leave that lawn. That-
Maybe you can.
It might be that the calculation of those plantings don't count. for
Sure.
them.
Yeah,
Or perhaps it can be.
So I had talked to you about that, Drew, this summer, and he and I had a conversation about that. And we both felt that it was, you know, it's basically just dirt that just sloped off into the water there, and any type of planting would be
I truly get the
beneficial.
logistics, but I can't run a meeting on a conversation. I need to have
Yeah.
verification, I need paperwork, so that all the Ts are crossed and all the Is are dotted. And this is the first I've seen of this.
Thank you for that, but I would like to point out that we're far exceeding our total amount of planting. We have, over 5,500 square feet of planting that we're offering,
Yes.
conditioning and mitigation.
Which,
Really,
while we're on that subject, I was
Yes,
puzzled
sir.
to see a request for a waiver of the regulations, under regulation 12. You're submitting more than enough mitigation,
Hi,
so
we
what's the rationale for a waiver on 12? Yes, Drew.
so, I mean, the rationale for the waiver is really, in my opinion, is the areas of proposed expansion are obviously going into previously altered areas.
Correct.
That's, and also within, of course, partially within 50 feet of the top of the coastal bank. That's a waiver criteria. That's an area. So anytime you're expanding a footprint into a previously altered area, that's one of the criteria in the waiver describes under 172-783. The other thing I just want to point out very quickly,
Sure.
just to remind the commissioners that it's not a matter of satisfying every single criterion, it's a weighing of weight and how much weight you give to each criterion based on what you see here, and most importantly, the existing site conditions and what's being improved over the existing site conditions. So you don't have to satisfy every criterion. You can make it that way if you want, but it's really supposed to be a balancing of how much weight you give to each criterion.
Right.
Just so, but
Now, I lost track. I know you were in a question. Drew, there was something else that you wanted to say?
That was it.
That was it.
Yeah.
I have some more
Okay.
questions.
Sure, yeah, but we're just probably getting started. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, so, my question is, this raised patio has walls.
No, it's below 18 inches, so it doesn't count as a structure, a building structure,
Okay, so it's a raised patio?
18
That's a
inches.
description.
18 inches.
So you're gonna have, it's gonna be 18 inches above that grade, right?
Correct.
That's a wall, so water's gonna hit that wall and bounce off that wall. Right.
Right.
Okay. Right, and then is the foundation a full concrete foundation with smart vents in it, or is it open piling that water will flow underneath?
No, it's a concrete foundation with engineered flood vents.
Okay, so flood water is gonna hit that foundation. It's gonna go through those 200 square feet of flood vents, but it's gonna bounce around and divert. So the statement that you guys mentioned that is gonna take the water, it's only gonna take that 200 square feet per flood vent coming in. The rest of the flood water is gonna hit this building, hit that retaining wall on the raised patio and move around.
We put the flood vents in according to the building code. So that's what.
Right, but then the statement that you're saying that it's gonna, with the stone inside, which is great, but it's only gonna take the water coming to the flood vent. A lot of the other water is gonna get diverted around the building, and then in the barn, the same thing with the barn.
Increase the flood vents, we're putting some sort of breakaway wall.
If you do it on pilings, yeah, then it's all open and the water just flows right through, and same thing on the barn, just, you know, if you do breakaway walls. If you look at the elevation, the flood elevation is 11. You have grades at 5 and 6, you know, 7 and 8 there. So, you know, there's gonna be a lot of flood water coming in there, it's gonna hit that building and bounce off. You know, if
Also,
it's-
water
if it's open
go in and
pilings,
then go through the stone into the existing ground.
but if you have open pilings, and if you don't have an 18-inch wall at a raised patio, then it's not gonna bounce
But
off, it's gonna get.
if you compare the house that's there, the water would now go into the foundation and be stuck there.
Yeah, I know this is a better proposal than what is there now, but it's still. On your description, it doesn't match up with what's actually gonna happen. That's my point.
Well, I would disagree with you. I mean, why wouldn't water go through an engineered flood vent?
It will, but it's only 200 square feet. The rest of the water's gonna hit that wall and bounce off.
Well, it
So
goes
it's not
back to-
gonna,
But like I said, we designed it around the building code for the flood vent, so if you'd like us to add more on the front, we can, but it's gonna be over what we're required to do.
I'm just saying that your statement and what you propose and don't match up.
Steve, may I clarify this situation? We're not talking, we're talking about this wall for the raised patio versus I want to isolate the foundation. That's what I'm here to talk about. And on any other situation I've been in any other town with flood vents, it allows for the passage into the flood and then out the other side. So there's no obstruction in the way as long as the flood vents are sized properly. So I don't see it hitting a wall. If it hits a wall, it funnels in, water rises like this, it doesn't hit a wall, it's still water flooding. This is not a surge velocity zone situation. So it raises, goes into the flood vents, passes through and under the structure and out the other side. That's why there's no barriers in through here. The raised patio is one issue, but as far as the house sizing, it isn't. And then you have beyond this performance standard, we're talking about floodwaters right now. We have other performance standards that we're trying to meet, and we've met in my original narrative here, which include wildlife habitat. When you want to talk about that, we can talk about that. The second thing that we're talking about is groundwater recharge. This will improve groundwater recharge tremendously. So you got flood control, groundwater recharge, and certainly not fisheries, certainly not fish farms, certainly not land under the water. There's one other performance standard that I brought up earlier. But we're talking about flood control. So under any scenario that I've seen, other than piles, and piles do the very same thing as this in still water flooding. Piles are usually suggested in Fairhaven. I've seen it in Falmouth. I've seen it with velocity zone situations because it pre-exists. So now you have a situation where flood control and groundwater is taken care of, and Bernice has addressed wildlife habitat. I don't want to get too far off the issue you're talking about, but right now I've seen it as an isolated situation of a small patio that's out there that has a barrier, 18 inches. Are you opposed to putting this at ground level?
No.
Well, you can take that barrier out, you can push this patio down to ground level, allow the water to pass over it and up to the flood vents. Now we're back to the foundation, this breakaway foundation. So this is where we're at. And believe me, FEMA's done all the work for it. They told us to lift these new houses up to a certain level that allows for this passage. What the structure is, whether it's breakaway foundation or piles, certainly is up to this board and the discussion, but is it still water flooding? There's no reason why we shouldn't use these kind of foundations to allow the water to go by. I think Bernice has addressed wildlife habitat adequately. This denitrification system of this is unbelievable. I'm sorry.
Let's just.
Well, just-
The topic is the flood vents.
Your statement, this is why I'm a little confused, but saying, you add the height, which is great and everything, in the flood vents, you are following the requirements of the flood zone for an A zone. But it says here, thereby allowing floodwaters to pass under and through rather than be swept around and diverted by the currently existing house. The breakaway foundation. Okay, you guys are talking two things. This statement says a breakaway foundation, the water's gonna pass through, that's pilings. Versus a foundation with flood vents is not. So you're saying two different things here.
It's nomenclature. I
No,
call it.
no, it's not nomenclature. This is a clear description. You're saying a breakaway foundation, waters can pass under and through. Well, if you have a foundation with flood vents, water's not passing under through, yeah, water's coming through the flood vents. But only 200 square foot per at a time. Coming in, this is two different descriptions here.
I thought there
Steve,
were
Fine,
all
you-
those-
Steve, to your point, I'm looking at the, get the title of this. This is the addendum that is dated January 3rd, 2024. And it specifically states. The area of the breakaway foundation at 246.9 square feet. I was lost as I looked through all of documentation to actually locate that 246.9 square feet on any of the plans. And if indeed it is a breakaway foundation, I don't see any information as to the type of concrete. Is it tangible concrete? Because that's what FEMA requires. And I don't see anything in here for load specs, hydrostatic pressure on the foundation. I mean, it's all, like you say, it's all nomenclature. But that's what it is. There needs to be some specific information on types of concrete, if indeed this is a breakaway foundation, as you state in your addendum. And the type of concrete, the hydrostatic pressure, the velocity of the water. There's a lot here that, in my estimation, is missing. And I'll go back to your information or your questionings on the fence.
Yeah, there's two ways to do a foundation flood zone. You do it one way is you have a concrete foundation all the way around with flood vents.
Right.
And it's, 200 square foot per flood vent, and you calculate the area within the foundation, you put in the number of flood vents that match up with it. Or you have it on pilings with a breakaway wall, so you have concrete pilings, and you have a wood breakaway wall, or slats, water comes through there, and all the stone underneath, that's perfect, so any water that's gonna flow through, it's gonna, just sink into the stone, and it's gonna flow through it, but with the first scenario, water's gonna come through the flood vents, but it's still gonna hit the foundation going out too.
And these,
So that's the two descriptions not matching up, that's my question.
I did not see any call out on the preliminary design for the height of these flood vents. They all appear to be uniform. I'm looking at the rear elevation on my computer screen. And the only thing I have to go by there's two steps pretty much going up that staircase on either side of the patio. And I'm going to assume that the rise is 7 to 8 inches. So there's no call out.
Yeah, they're within 1 foot of the finished grade.
Within 1 foot of the finished
Yes.
grade. So for all practical purposes, then there is a 1 foot vertical wall around this whole building. Because the water can't get in there until it gets up to the vent.
That's historically, that's the way they've been designed, so that's not a specific design. I see where you guys are coming from. It's not a specific design, but because of where footings are placed under a foundation, historically, they allow for this 1 foot to the fence. Because they know that there's no engineering damage or no undermining, and when it gets to 1 foot, oh yes, it's time for that to allow that water to pass through. But you don't have any real engineering specs. This is historical data that's based on that 1 foot of foundations showing will allow the water to come in after that point, pass through the foundation, which is all level, and passes through, puts no hydrostatic pressure on these foundations. There's no need for calculations. As you're talking about, passes it through, it gets absorbed first in the whole crushed stone sump that's created underneath this. There is no diversion except for the first foot. First foot, I agree with you, but there's not enough hydrostatic pressure in that first foot to create the issue that you're talking about. After that, it gets released, it gets through the foundation, gets absorbed partially into the sump. And how many floods have been out on Monomoskoye that have gone to this height, or to a height that FEMA is dictating to? Because these vents will control almost historically a 50-year storm. And never get to that point.
Wayne, were you out there yesterday?
Not yesterday, why would I be out there yesterday?
There's a lot of flooding that was happening yesterday, morning,
Okay,
and it's happening more and more frequently.
they reach over the revetment of this property.
It did not, I was there yesterday. It was within a foot of the top of the wall.
I was on the site yesterday. It was, I'm going to say more like 10 inches to 8 inches. And I did notice some damage to the concrete seawall. I don't know what that, do you have any information about that? There's a vinyl revetment that's kind of lagged right into the wall. The wall's cracked and saggy.
So, yeah.
I think that
Oh,
comes from the neighbor out of, that was
there.
prior to my time.
It's a corrugated vinyl.
Mhm.
Did we, was that authorized by the commission?
On this property?
Yeah,
I have to check the permitting history.
because I mean, it's a pretty rough shape.
Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. I just.
Right.
Um,
I guess I will say that, with approval of this project, I will go forward with a notice of intent to replace the seawall, but I don't see putting the time and money into it, an existing house like that.
I would agree.
And I think you're saying this was an unusual flood, so reality.
It wasn't that unusual. It was a Wednesday with a bunch of wind that's been happening every week. That's what I'm getting at, that the area that flooded in the salt marsh right next to it and how high the levels came from there, it certainly makes this proposed barn closer than 34 feet from the edge of anything. I mean, the water was up high. So that's what we're looking at that with in mind. So I just want to say for myself, I'm struggling with the appurtenances and expansion within 50 feet of the buffer, within the 50-foot buffer. So that's where my thoughts are at.
Okay, but under the bylaw, it does replace other structures that are there.
And it expands upon them and adds.
And there's also flood vents in the garage as well. So I've done these typical flood vents in town, but we had to raise things up. And you have to leave the garage down, otherwise you don't do it. So the flood vents collapse as well, in the same situation. I think Bill would be happy to look back on the height of the flood vents, so you put them at ground level if need be, so that they enter the water enters the foundation right away, as soon as it floods the area. But typically, that's what it's done, so that not every event is reflected in passage of water. So I think Steve is right with regard to the bouncing of floodwaters up to the 1 foot. After that, we're right. The water passes through and out the other side. With no pressure, no hydrostatic pressure, no need for the type of concrete used is usually 3,000 pound concrete in these situations. Is this something you want to increase? When you get up to 4,000 pounds concrete, the expense is not the point. It's becomes a impossibility to put anything. So 3,000 pound test concrete is what we would use in this scenario. I don't think we need reinforcing. You don't have reinforcing in this difficult concrete foundation.
Yeah, we are.
Okay, with a footing, make demand a footing in it. So that's how you would build it. It's very typical and with relief. I don't see the point of the document, and the garage is the same way. It has flood vents. I think the flood vents are even lower, allows the passage through. You might lose your car, but they're not going to adversely
Okay,
affect
let's
this.
move on to other questions or comments.
Marjorie might,
Yes, if she's,
somebody do the things that she knows to,
Marjorie, she's muted. I can see that on her.
I don't think she can unmute from there though, can she, or did you?
yeah, she can,
Oh, it's regular and down
it's
here?
computer audio.
Nice.
So,
Right, and she's got her.
There we go.
Now she's.
hey Marjorie,
Hi, sorry, I was muted.
no problem. We just wanted to see if you had any comments.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Most of what I was concerned about or confused about, I think you've covered. But I'm interested to see how best we deal with this, but I'm gonna wait until there's some sort of a motion. I think Steve's onto the issues that I was concerned about. Thank you.
Sid, is there anything you would like to?
No. Chairman, is it possible for me to make a comment?
Sure.
Yes,
Go
I
ahead.
just, Steve, I wanted to say that I had, thinking about your question about a critical need. If in the work that I do, I think nitrogen levels on the cave are something that we need to treat very critically. And that in many ways, this project is really reducing a lot of nitrogen loading that is happening. So you have a system that is a D-night system. We have really robust amount of mitigation planting that is also helping with that in there. And a good amount of reduction of lawn, which I do think is very, very important, and it should not be undervalued. And also I do appreciate your reviewing of the breakaway versus the vents. I did clarify with Pat here that it is a vent construction that they're looking to do with standard concrete foundation. And if there's anything that needs to be adjusted, which is can work with you to clarify that.
Okay. A point of clarification, when I do look at the elevations, they're just drawings, they don't have figures on them. I see the vents, and I see the rest of this open space up to where your sidewall shingles are. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is that concrete up to?
Yes.
So it's a solid concrete wall with flood vents.
Correct.
And what is the height of that?
Well, the finished floor would be 13, so subtract a foot or so, I guess.
Yeah. Right. I just wanted some clarification on that. I didn't know if there were walls that, the concrete just comes up to where the flood vents are and it stops, and then there's some type of a framed wooden wall that's breakaway, but it doesn't appear to be that. You're saying it's concrete all the way up. Okay.
And Mr. Chairman, through you, one thing, the interest of the act, and I forgot, was brought up by the pollution. So if you just address that issue. Right. I don't know, or issues or standards of interest of the act. I mentioned three releases against the board. Thank you. Okay.
In terms of procedure, I want to go back to the waiver request and find out where we are with the commissioners on that. It appears to me as though, and correct me if I'm wrong, the waiver request is just for regulation 12. No other request being submitted for waiver, it's good 12.
Well, regulation 12, I will state that regulation, regulation under 172 will be good. That issue 172 permits the commission to grant waivers and regulation. And it states in the other section that it follows the commission and discretion of the et cetera, such waivers are intended to be granted in rare and unusual circumstances, and only when what resource protection would be enhanced relative to pre-existing conditions. And I think we would write that it has been enhanced in all of these situations. In addition, number 7 and 172 also it may grant a waiver 172 in regard to the portions of the buffer zone between the proposed project and the adjacent resource areas if previously altered. That was brought up earlier. The neighborhood previously altered, so we haven't gone any closer to the wetlands. So we've addressed that issue. And then lastly, 7, another one, the applicant needs to only satisfy, there's 3 separate means to obtain a waiver. The applicant needs only to satisfy one. We contend that we satisfy all 3. So it's just available technologies and methodologies for utilization is 1. 2, any adverse effects on the wetland values are minimized. We've shown that, I think. And where does number 2 go on? Excuse me, I apologize. Wait, I'm confusing 2 issues here. So, and again, the rest of it has been reiterated and rehashed already.
So again, my question is, the commission may grant a waiver on one or more of the regulations found in chapter 172. And are you asking for more than the one on mitigation? Are there other areas that you're asking for?
Well, certainly prove that 1 is available. We think we've satisfied all 3.
No. I'm talking about which regulation you're asking the waiver from. It appears as though it's 12. Am I?
No, I think I should clarify too. So the bylaw section that details the waiver criteria 172-783.
Exactly.
then you've got the waiver and the mitigation regulation.
Right.
They're one and the same.
Okay,
The chart under regulation 12 just gives you guidance to figure out how much mitigation is required. They're asking for a waiver from the fact that the property is within land subject to coastal storm flow. So section 7 of regulation 25 setbacks, they're asking a waiver from
you're
that.
asking a waiver
The waiver
from
from
regulation 25.
increasing structure within 50 feet. So it's multiple. You look at the waiver, it's really whatever resource
That's,
areas are
that's what I'm
applicable.
trying to get
That's-
to. I'm
yeah.
trying to get to the fact of the matter of, are we asking just for mitigation waiver, or are we asking for waivers from 25, 16?
I think it's all of
What, all of them,
Well, I mean, they're not
Which
asking
one?
for a waiver from mitigation because they're offering mitigation.
right.
So
That's why I was puzzled.
Mitigation.
When I saw it
Yeah,
here, it
yeah.
specifically says they're asking for, the,
I think
regulation 12.
they're just referencing the waiver section
Yeah.
under regulation 12.
Okay.
They're not asking for a waiver from regulation 12. That's, I understand the confusion there. It's easy to see that. But I just want to emphasize that the chart is related to 172-7A.
Okay,
The criterion
right.
accompanying the chart are related to 172-7A
Mhm.
3.
So if the
so that-
waiver were to be granted,
Right.
it's a waiver from any or all regulations.
Correct. Based on the criteria
That's
that you
what I want to
evaluate the
clarify
waiver.
before I
Yeah.
accept any kind of a motion.
Yeah.
I want the commissioners to be fully aware of the granting of the waiver.
Yeah.
Request.
Yeah.
Okay, so as a matter of procedure, so we could go even further, we should clear up the waiver request component. Just to see where we are. Are we working under a waiver, or are we working strictly with the regulations as they are called out?
So, obviously, part of the proposal is to increase structure into previously altered areas,
Exactly.
part of which is within 50 feet. So they're asking for a waiver, to allow to take advantage of previously developed areas in exchange for mitigation.
Mhm.
Right, that's one of the waiver requests. Yeah, I think it's really multiple waiver requests, whatever resource areas on the lot and where they're, expanding out into. That's land subject to coastal storm flow and within 50 feet of a coastal bank, an armored coastal bank. So I think those are the two main waiver categories. Yeah.
Point of clarification too, as I reviewed a lot of the paperwork for this hearing. Everything tends to me to be looking at the old buffer zone requirements of 5100. And we're not operating under those standards any longer. It's 75-150. Correct?
Yeah, but I don't think the same standards apply to previously developed lots when you're talking about a 75.
No, but I'm looking at the proposal for the barn that's sitting in a 50-foot buffer zone. It
Right,
should really be a 75-foot buffer zone. And even for the house that's been expanded, it shows it as being primarily, it just barely goes into the 50-foot buffer zone. I get that,
right.
but it's a 75-foot buffer zone. So for all practical purposes, the entire footprint of this house is in the buffer zone. Is it not?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, it's obviously you see the 100-foot buffer zone line here, most of the house
Right.
and everything is
Yeah, I
within
just,
that.
I eyeballed it halfway between 50 and 100.
Yeah, I mean,
To
if you
me-
wanna see a 75-foot delineation, I don't know if it makes much difference here when it comes to the waiver request. If they're asking for a waiver of all applicable standards
Right.
that are being exceeded, and, compensated for as presented, that's really how you weigh,
Right.
whether or not there's actual adverse impact here.
And I guess with a note to the kind of the structure footprints, I mean, we've got a pre-existing non-conforming lot and structure and shed that exists. We're allowed by law to carry all those pre-existing non-conformities forward, which was, shown last night with approval from.
That has nothing to do with us, so that's the zoning purview, it's not our issue at all.
Correct, but you were talking about the relationship to the barn, to the wetland. In fact, it's everything has been improved from existing to proposed with what we have setbacks. With the new
From lot
structures,
For a zoning issue,
no, from wetlands and resource.
They have
areas as
50-foot
well.
setback to wetlands under zoning as well.
they do, and I watched that hearing last night, it wasn't even brought up. At all, 174-33 was not even mentioned.
Oh, that's why we're here.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I'm asking these questions. So, what I would like to do is accept a motion on the waiver request first. Let's see where we stand as a commission with that request. And then we can look further, if we have to, at the plan to see if there are things here that we need further clarification on, or that we would like to see changed or whatever. It's hard to ask for a change if you've got a waiver sitting there on the table and you don't know if it's applicable or not. So I'd like to get that piece cleared up.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chairman, the point of reference, do we ask the public for some questions? Have we done that?
I don't think I need to poll the public on a waiver request. I will certainly ask the public for input on the project itself once we get the waiver request isn't to the public, it's to the commission. So is there a motion?
I'm not quite clear procedurally about motions for something other than the entire project. I mean, we've never had a motion to approve a waiver, it's just part of the overall deliberation.
Well, here's my quandary. To go further into this project and look at specifics that may or may not be affected by a waiver, what's the point if we don't know if that waiver is going to be approved or not?
So it'll be approved subject to your motion at the end of all the deliberation. That's, I mean,
Okay,
it's your call. I mean, it's just, I've never seen that parsed out before for a separate motion. Because it's part of the overall proposal, the whole body of work. So
Okay.
it's your call. If you want to make a separate motion for an approval to the waiver, you can just deliberate over it. And
No,
make a
I'll
decision at the end.
I'll go with your experience on that.
Okay.
That's fine. So no other questions from the commissioners, and I will ask a few different questions. I would certainly like to see a more specific plan that shows the buffer zones exactly where they are, so that I can make a determination as to how much of this house is actually inside or outside the buffer zone. Right now, I'm just guessing between 50 foot and 100 foot on an engineered plan, which, you know, it doesn't have any numbers on it. So I have a very difficult time knowing how much of that house is sitting in the buffer zone. And I know there's been more than enough mitigation that has been proposed to offset that. And I get the weighing and the balancing, but I also get the specifics and the requirements of the regulations for chapter 172. And that's where I'm going next. When I look at regulation 25C4, there are no vertical walls, none allowed in the A zone of LSCFF. That's not a state statute, that's not a FEMA regulation, that's a town bylaw. So there are vertical walls on these plans as I see them. And I would find it very difficult to approve a project that was literally vertical walls everywhere I look. I see them on the patio, I see them on the sidewalls. I don't even know what the exact height of the flood vents are. And now it's been confirmed that even above those flood vents is all concrete as well. So that's one heck of a big wall. And I get the whole concept of water flowing through a vent. And it all sounds great on paper, but storm surge doesn't care about paper. Storm surges don't care about concrete. They just come. And I'll tell you, I watched the hearing last night of the ZBA. There wasn't a lot of talk about storm surges and vertical walls. And all you had to do is change the channel. And everywhere else I looked at Hampton Beach completely underwater. I looked at Wells Beach getting completely pummeled. I looked at places in New Jersey getting completely pummeled. I stood at South Cape Beach 2 days ago filming the parking lot that's being literally torn apart. I stood on that piece of property 2 days ago, and I looked at that wall, and I looked at the water, and I talked to residents that are on Monmouth Square, and they're very concerned about the flooding that's going on. And I know what's coming on Saturday. It's going to all happen all over again. These are not just unusual storms that come once every 50 years or once every 100 years. They're coming pretty much every time. This is called climate change. It's a whole new world that we're living in. And as the permitting authority for the town of Mashpee, I take this extremely seriously because God forbid it ever happens, but if it does, and these buildings start coming down, the permitting authority is indeed a responsible party. And so I'm gonna, as I said earlier in this meeting, I cross T's and I dot I's. And I'm asking about frangible concrete, and I'm not getting any answers. Now I'm finding out that this is a concrete wall that's, in your words, 10 feet, 12 feet, possibly. I'm just repeating what I heard. And
I'm unclear on what you actually mean by a definition of a wall, because what else would it be? A foundation. That's a pilings.
you would have pilings and you would have a breakaway wooden wall of some kind with a railing structure by FEMA code. There's all kinds of creative, I mean, I'm not saying get out of Florida, but most of the FEMA code that I read in the construction manuals come out of Florida and Louisiana, and they're all focused on Katrina and the various hurricanes. We've learned a lot of lessons. And unfortunately, these are not situations that are just happening down in the southern part of the country anymore. They're happening right here in New England. And we've been lucky. We've been very lucky. But your luck runs out eventually. I used to live in Leominster. They ran out last September, big time. And it's just a matter of time. I hope I'm wrong. I don't think I am.
So question for you, because I'm still unclear on that. So if you, or a basement with engineered flood vents, what is the height that you can go if you can't do a wall?
According to our bylaw,
Yes.
0. There are no vertical walls allowed within 100 feet of a coastal water body in the A zone of LSCSF. None. 0.
I'm very confused because there's 3 houses going on in Monmouth right now with concrete foundations.
And maybe they shouldn't be there. I don't know. I don't know, but I'm looking at regulation 20, the current regulation 25. I will tell you that regulation 25 right now is in revision with the bylaw review subcommittee, and it needs to be revised. There's a lot of things in there that just, it was 2005 when it went on the books. It's 2024. We live in a different world. So we really need a more updated and more streamlined regulation that addresses all of this.
And we,
And we're
can we
working-
move on with deliberation, please? I mean, please.
I don't think they need a whole lesson on our regulations. I think we should just focus on what's being proposed and just keep things moving.
What's being proposed
Yeah, I
is
know what,
governed by the
you don't need to tell me.
regulations that we
You
have.
don't need to tell me, let's just keep moving.
Yes,
There's a
sir.
lot of time being wasted with information that nobody really needs to know. Look at what's being presented to you right now and base your comments on that. That's my recommendation.
Okay, then I guess I'm done with my comments because I think I've made my point. The
I'm
maps are
sure you
drawn
have.
wrong. The buffer zones on the map are incorrect. There's vertical walls everywhere I look, which are not allowed under regulation 25C4. There's a setback regulation in 25 as well that's been confirmed by legal counsel. That's an applicable performance standard for the town of Mashpee. So I have a lot of concerns for this project, and quite honestly, based on everything I've heard up until listening to the public, which I'm going to listen to next, and I will read in the letters, I'm not at all convinced that the merits of this project match up with the regulations that we're charged to uphold. So with that, are there any other questions or comments from commissioners? Then I will go to the public.
I don't know what buffer you're talking about. The whole entire thing is within the.
I was gonna say, we can include that buffer because you're looking at how much of the house is in 50 foot or 75 foot. In what portion of town, 75 foot.
Well, the house is in the entire resource area, within the subject to coastal law.
It's listed by zone at the top of this right here. Study plan.
There is the plan, and then it has all of that, breakdown in between here.
Yeah, at the top.
Yeah,
You see that, you have, there's that plan called site plan. That was all of the distance with one of the first, what is existing, with no lighting, so it's come out from the.
I'm sure I have it on my.
0 to 10.
Take a grab it in there.
10 to 15.
I just have another question too, is if he does put in, let's say. The three sides are concrete. Walls, the one facing Hamblin Pond. If that was on piers with the breakaways through there, wouldn't that satisfy any type of storm surge? Because now it's not rushing around, as you
You know,
say.
hang on one second, Bill, I just wanna add to that.
Wait, hold on, hold on. So you're asking to use one side of the building as a
The
breakaway?
side facing the water.
Right,
You let water flow through all the way. 'Cause it would
Well,
come in
yeah,
and
yeah,
hit
we
the
could-
cottage wall, the
They
entire-
could put more flood vents on. And
If you're doing islands, breakaway, it has to be all the way around.
I want to, Mr. Chairman, show you, if I could, the word storm surge was used. The surges, yes, but again, this is not a velocity zone, this is an AE flood zone. It's- Water doesn't surge, it's still water floods, so it comes up, it's visible, it might come up, but it doesn't pour in, it is not a velocity zone, it does not scour the earth. So this works, I think, we can massage the plan and lowering and enlarging beyond, what the standards are for the flood vents. But keeping the walls also replace the existing walls that are there now. So it's a replacement in kind of the same thing. They're not allowed a new situations, but they're allowed as replacements, just like the house, but it is allowed as a replacement. So
Right.
again,
It's just not in the exact same footprint, Wayne. We're going around in circles.
and we're further away from the, line. Well, excuse me, from the top of the coastal bend.
You look at the top of the wall, it's wall.
How do we got an approval of some sort? What do we need? What do we want?
well, there's several things that I would like to see. I would like to certainly see the plan corrected for the proper delineation of the buffer zones as we're charged to enforce, like 75, 150, not 50. That will give us a better look at how much of this building is inside the buffer zone. Right now, there's only a tiny sliver of the building that's sitting in that 50-foot buffer. But I can tell this by looking at
That
it.
one, the other one.
Right, this one here, everything's gonna shift this way, which means that this entire barn is going to be inside the buffer zone. Most of this building right here, not all, but most of it is gonna be inside the 75 foot. But I don't wanna draw a line in this, I'm not an engineer, I'll let,
Correct,
I'll
we
let
can,
them deal
the,
with it.
the engineer can provide that.
Exactly.
That is very
So
reasonable.
that's one of the things that I would like to see. The next thing I would like to see is specific elevation of the flood vents themselves. There is nothing in the information that I have that shows the exact elevation of
Mr.
those.
Chairman, can I just clarify that?
Yes,
So Drew and I were just looking at regulation 25-4, it's about wall, so you were saying, they mentioned at the top of the foundation wall is gonna be 12, and the grades in the rear are 5 and 6. So you got a 6-foot high wall sticking up with flood vents down low, so, and then when you go into the description in our regulation.
Yep.
It says waves 2 to 3 feet high, i.e. too small for an area to be classified as a V zone, is still capable of causing structural damage and erosion, or occur in the base flood conditions in many coastal A zones. So, yeah, you still get some waves, especially if the wind's blowing, so that's what my concern is, if you're hitting a 6-foot high wall. You know, water's gonna go through the flood vents, but a lot of water's gonna get bounced off and diverted, so.
Yeah.
You know, in lieu of that, if you went to, on pilings, and based on the description too, because the description, in the narrative doesn't match up with concrete wall flood vents, you know, there's my
that's,
confusion there. So it's that, because it's not being proposed as a breakaway foundation, even though it's noted in there, so that's the clarification there. Is it a breakaway foundation in pilings, or is it a concrete wall of flood?
right.
So that's, I just want to clarify your request there.
There's that, and then we wanna see the buffer lines. What else do we need to see for when they come back? Because we're not in a place where anyone's gonna approve anything right now. If it's gonna be continued, what else do we have?
And just my original question is, I don't think I got an answer, is the, the compelling need to double the size of this house and add a barn.
I just said.
You know, I understand everything is good about water recharge, septic, plantings, that's all good. But what is the compelling need to go with a much larger structure and in a detached barn?
Because even
Again, I mean, the entire house was built in 1960, it doesn't meet any part of any code.
Right.
But
so-
why increase the footprint? Why can't you build a better house on that footprint?
Because we're allowed to, with Mashpee's bylaws, to go up to 20% coverage, and we're under that.
And we've
In other-
improved the coverage,
Yeah.
we've improved the footprint coverage here. We've gone through that already. Now it's a smaller foundation.
Well, you add structure, even though it's lawn and disturbed area, it's still natural area, and then now you add the structure on top of natural there.
But you decrease the amount of lawn.
It's lawn.
Create the-
Well,
It is
yeah,
managed
yeah,
in your lawn,
Well, you know,
these guys you have-
I understand that, but it's still open and water.
Another reason, right? Like the barn is gonna be like, it's gonna have like a apartment,
No bedroom,
no, just like
it's a,
studios type space.
Yeah.
It does have a bathroom.
Right.
It's in the top storage area.
yes,
So it's like, it's increased living space on top of the increased house. I mean, right now, that's not even, it's literally a shed and it's going to a more. It's like, probably the size of my first house.
the shed's 130 square feet.
The proposed barn.
The shed, the existing shed.
Yeah, I know, I'm saying that what you're proposing,
Correct, yeah, I mean, the whole reason we bought this property was to enjoy the water and all kinds of water sports, and we can't fit anything that we have in the shed, I mean, we have a small boat that I like to get in coverage, kayaks, you know, all that type of stuff to get in an actual, you know, full structure.
There's one other thing that I overlooked, and I just would like to get clarification on it. Give me a second to find that. In the project description, the original one that was filed on November 15th, it's referring to private water supply. It says there are no major changes that would affect the private water supply. There is no significance. A new well may be applicable as needed. I'm assuming because of the age of the house, that the water supply to this house is currently a well, correct?
There was an existing well, but it is town water,
It's tied into town water.
yes.
So what is this new well may be needed, as needed?
Sometimes people put in wells for other issues, irrigation, what have you. So I may.
Not drinking water.
If you don't need it, we'll take it right off the table. We'll take it off the table.
Well, when I saw that, I knew the septic was being moved up, and then I went on to the lot, I thought, wait a minute, if they're gonna put another well in here, where's it going?
No, there was a well, you know, for the last X amount of years, but there is town water.
It's on town water. In fact, today I went out on the street to make sure there was town water there, and I could see the
Yeah, the cover's right there.
covers right in front of the
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
And the septic line from the bathroom in this proposed barn to the tank. the
So
new-
Zach told me we didn't have to deal with that until we go for a building permit, and I already talked to him about that.
Right.
That will be tied in at
When
that
you
point.
submit a new plan, can you put that drawing?
Yes.
I mean, most of the drawings we see show the connections as to
Okay.
what's going into that tank.
Okay.
That tank is our purview. I
The
want to
line
see that.
on the bond, okay. So,
we want them, so, but we want him to come back to a project with us that we can then approve that night and not just be.
Right.
continuing.
And we would have to clear up this little corner thing here with the town,
Yeah.
you know, I'd like to get something on paper that addresses that issue. And if it can't be done, maybe that mitigation can go somewhere else.
like I said,
we
I would like to come forward with a notice of intent to replace the wall within the, you know, year or two. So, I mean, at that point, I could either, we could work with Ruth to figure out how to either stabilize that with a new part of the wall, or just go to the property line, you know, with the new wall, and then that would become the land, I guess, for lack of a better term.
So the vinyl revetment, that's all on your property, correct?
I'm confused on that myself. I have no idea what that is. That's,
John,
that was obviously done after the concrete wall that's here right now, which is pretty old.
Right.
So I don't know what that is, but that comes from the neighbor's property and then is tied into the seawall. So I don't know if that was their seawall that got tied in to this, but I'm confused on that myself. But I mean, obviously we'd be willing to pull that completely out of there if that's.
well, at some point it's gonna have to be addressed. I mean, the wall's failing.
Yeah, but with your remark to the corrugated plastic piece with the stone, I don't know what myself,
Yeah.
what that is.
And there's a structure with 4 different,
I don't know if
flags.
that was a flagpole,
It looks like some kind of a light post.
yeah, I don't know what that was. either.
Your future proposal would address all.
In the seawall proposal, yeah.
That's what I
But we don't need that for the list that we're making right now. Is there anything else that?
No, for me to approve this when it comes back, if the house was shifted out of the 50-foot buffer, if the barn or that structure was shifted out of the 50-foot buffer, I can see approval. I have definitely had trouble with other filings in the past, and we've gone to them and asked them to move them out of the 50-foot buffer. And that is.
So, Mr. Chairman,
If
can I ask a question?
it's all within the 75-foot buffer, if the house and the barn are moved within 50 feet away.
So how far, I mean, how far do we have to move this to satisfy that? I mean, I don't think we have the room.
Would it be, do you think there's a negotiation in the fact that there is existing structure within the 50, and if we came back with a reasonable proposal that reduce?
So it's been. That's what
That's fair for you? Okay,
and then like, yes, there is more mitigation than we require per that chart, but our law standards also say that the first 50 feet of buffer the first 50 feet shall be a buffer. So
yeah, it
So
does
that-
vary, you know, we're 48 to 20, and it does vary, so. I think what I'd like to do is, take a stab at addressing the configuration of the buildings with your concern about the salt mark potential. But I would like to then just point out that there is a significant amount of that existing house structure that is within the 50-foot buffer, and the goal would be to make that better, to make that a more favorable condition to the 50-foot buffer.
So, Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah, so
ahead,
it sounds
Patrick.
like, I'm trying to follow this, it's unfortunately hard to do remotely, but we're gonna send this back with conditions. And I'm wondering why we can't at least include something that started at the very, very beginning of this whole hearing, which is what the hell are the waivers for, to be more specific about the regulations that the waivers are ostensibly applying to, and it just seems to me I've been listening for an hour and there's no real good answer. Am I wrong about that?
Well, according to what Drew had to say, the waiver would include any or all regulations.
So that's sort of weird, isn't it, to have such an open-ended,
It's a big ask.
oh, it's a huge ask.
Yep.
I mean, it's just to say, yeah, if there's anything that I don't like, if there's anything that goes against this, then we get a waiver for it.
So I agreed not to pursue that conversation at this stage of the game and thought that we would address all of the issues and concerns that commissioners have, and that's pretty much where we are. And I believe the applicants might be willing to make some modifications or changes to the project and come back to see if what these changes are sufficient enough or not.
Yeah, I'm just looking for specificity. There's something,
Right.
there's something not, I think, tight enough about having an open-ended waiver for any and all regulations that may apply now and into the future. Just my thought.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So if we continue, or you guys request a continuance rather than us vote either yes or no on this, which I think you would want to.
You're gonna ask for continuance.
What,
Yeah.
how long do you need before coming back? Like, don't just do the next meeting and then come back and keep continuing it. Correct.
Oh, I'm gonna put public comment too.
But I'm still unclear on a number of things. So I don't know who I would need to talk to about that. I mean, the main thing is the foundation. I mean, the definition of a wall. I mean, so if you don't have, I mean, that's That's my whole thing, which I still don't fully understand. So I don't know who would I talk to about that? Would that be the building?
We could, as mentioned, we can specify the concrete that's in here, specify the wall, the vent doors being lower, and we can specify the vents to be increased.
Yeah,
But
but
we
we're
want
still,
to get a list here, shopping list of what we're told beyond that. I
correct,
think that part is fairly specific.
but they're still saying that a foundation wall, or a foundation is a wall, and you can't have a wall in buffer zone, is that?
Would a foundation with vents be acceptable to the board, I think is the question.
Well, it still meets definition of a vertical wall, and it's not being acceptable to us, it's
But
whether it's.
every house in the
Whether-
buffer has.
where's the
vertical walls,
regulations?
So that making zero sense to me.
Just looking at the regulation, that's what the regulation says, so I don't know what the previous commission had approved or not, but. If we're looking at this, you got 6 foot high wall there. The front end.
So I
If you
think
go with
based on
the
the
oil
neighborhood,
and pier
is
for pilings. With breakaway panels, it's not a wall.
Okay, but my previous question was, how, what is the regulation that we can come up with a wall before we do a panel or,
It's one, either one.
It's an engineer.
yeah, but the panel doesn't start on the ground, it starts on the top of a foundation, and my question is,
Those panels start on the ground. And gravel,
yes. Oh, the breakaway panel,
regular
Yes.
panels, yeah.
Do you consider if the raised patio wall were to be like native dry lake fieldstone, that is basically great, is that like a fall part, like where does that fall within your thinking about a wall, the wall, is that still a wall? Okay.
And we discussed what has been solved here, that there is no increased pollution. That is no damage.
Thank you, no, we're not
I
getting
don't
into
think we
any
need
of
any
that,
of that
thank
right
you.
now. No, we're just trying to compile a list of.
Figure out how
I
we
know,
want.
that's what I'm
What you
trying to
would
say,
say.
I'm trying to take things off the table. If pollution isn't an issue, then there's no pollution problem.
I mean, realistically, with flood events coming up, I'd be curious how even a D9 system can stay out of groundwater levels when the seawater is coming in and the groundwater is meeting it. Like, I mean, let's not rehash a bunch of pollution issues right now. I don't think that's gonna be helpful. How can we move forward?
We need
Well,
a
I think
shopping list,
what-
I think.
What I would like to see is the issues that we place on the table now in terms of vertical walls in the floodplain. I'd like to see that completely addressed. I would like to see the buffer zone lines redrawn on the engineered plans. I would like to see the connection of that garage to the septic tank. That's not on the plan.
Elevation of flood vents was another one,
Yes, the elevation of the flood vents.
and you want to see all buffers 75 and 150.
Yeah, I mentioned that already.
Yeah.
Flood vents would not be an issue, because, I mean, technically with what you're saying, if walls aren't allowed, then flood vents are not therefore allowed.
Right,
So
it's like flood events are like a FEMA thing, but.
Yeah,
The regs have no walls.
Here.
Flood zone, so.
you're talking about really a request for pilings.
Pilings and breakaway walls, yeah.
Yeah,
And that's what the description in the narrative was, breakaway walls.
there needs to be some clearing up of that language.
That was a nomenclature issue. My intention in every other town, when you say breakaway is a foundation, it would have vents. So,
Thank you.
and
Thank you.
piles are piles. So that's a decision of the owner.
And there's also discussion about the possibility of anything being taken out of the 50-foot. So if there's
Correct.
any possibility.
A betterment of the structure within the 50-foot, I think that's a very reasonable request. Thank you
And
for
then
bringing that up.
a couple times that was brought up, was the need, the compelling need, that could be more clarified and specified.
Yes.
So I think that would also help with the whole process here.
Thank you.
And also if I can just make one recommendation, that you just come up with a list of what you are officially waiving. I don't want to get into a waiver request conversation,
Mhm.
but just a list of, regulation 10, regulation 2, and then what section of that. Just so the commission has more of an idea of exactly what you're waiving.
Thank you.
So it gives them a better judgment of how to basically vote and dictate the decision.
Thank you,
Okay.
Thank you, Dan.
thank you.
All public comments.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to that. So let me, while I get up these letters that I have, is there somebody from the public that would like to comment to the commission on this project? This would be the time. Yes, sir.
Richard Saul, I live at 351 Monmouth Road, and I have zero chance of this project.
251, okay. Thank you, Richard.
Thomas Norton, I've been, blessed to live at 314 and 372 Monmouth Road for the past 15 years. There was, comments about yesterday's storm, Tuesday night, yesterday, and the amount of rain. The only way to really gauge it is the rain date. I don't have out at the moment, but I had a cubic foot wheelbarrow that was upright, yeah, almost full of water. Yesterday was not a typical rainfall. It was a great deal more water. In fact, the neighbor, like, further down, had water in the basement. The first time that yesterday rain, not. Secondly, there have been at least 3 recent announced, and there's been at least 2 foundations put in the ground. So I'm also confused about what you're after in that respect. And I just think it needs to be apples with apples. So that the standard that they met be the same as what 279 has to be. They have foundation walls. Yeah. And I have no objection to this project. And I believe that the plantings will help birds coming back in. And there's a lot of plants there. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Okay, I have a couple of letters here that I'll read into the record quickly. This first letter is from Stephen and Joyce Hines. I don't have an address, but it says, "Good morning, Drew. Stephen and I are sending this email because we believe that Patrick Dale of 279 Monmouth Square Road, Mashpee, will be compliant on this project. He is an outstanding tree farmer and has incredible knowledge of plantings. He will create a home and landscape that will enhance our island. Thank you." The next letter is from Norton. Would you like me to read the letter as well? "Hello, Drew. As a neighbor to Patrick Dale, my wife Becky and I reside at 314 Monument Square Road. I'm writing to you in support of Patrick's plan, benefits to the town of Mashpee at 279 Monument Square Road. I will leave it up to experts like myself to determine whether or not Patrick's plan meets what the town requires. As far as the property itself, I am familiar with the area around his property, as I sometimes use the town access to the water between his house and his neighbor to the left. On a side note, if we eliminated all of the legal cyclists and allowed no more to be planted on Monomoskoy Island and planted Eastern red cedar instead, perhaps we would see all the birds that once dominated this area come back. 558 plants to be planted. If X% of these plants are native and like wet feet and planted in the most beneficial locations, and that alone will minimize, if not virtually eliminate, the runoff into Hamlin Pond. In closing, I first met Patrick approximately 15 years ago. I simply want you to know that in my business dealing with Patrick, he has proven to be honorable and trustworthy. Sincerely, Tony Norton. The next public comment is from Carl F. Gabosa. It says, Drew, please share my letter of support with the conservation staff and board members. If possible, read this into the record. I am the neighbor of the above subject property at 357 Monmouth Way Road. I'm writing to express my wholehearted support for the approval of the proposed project at 279 Monmouth Way Road. The comprehensive benefits outlined in this proposal not only address key concerns related to the existing structures, but also demonstrate a commendable commitment to environmental sustainability and compliance with current building code. The existing house constructed in 1960 poses numerous code compliance issues, whereas the proposed structures are designed to meet today's stretch code standards. Notably, the implementation of a denitrification system in the proposed 3-bedroom septic system, without an increase in bedroom count, reflects a conscientious approach to environmental responsibility. The elevation improvements and flood mitigation strategies incorporated in the project are particularly noteworthy. The shift from a below-grade basement to an elevated foundation, complete with engineered flood vents, not only enhances the first floor elevation, but also ensures compliance with the flood zone regulations. Moreover, the meticulous planting results in increasing flood storage capacity within the land subject to coastal storm flow area, contributing to the overall resilience of the property. The detailed breakdown of improvements and setbacks in various points such as Hamlin Pond, property line, seawall, and salt marsh underscore a commitment to responsible and considerate construction practices. Additionally, the proposed stone drive allowing water percolation, controlled roof drainage, and the removal of invasive plants exemplify a holistic and sustainable approach to landscaping and water management. The significant restoration and addition of native eastern red cedars not only contribute to wildlife habitat enhancement, but also showcase a commitment to environmental stewardship. The extensive mitigation plantings along with the removal of existing lawn areas not only improve lot coverage, but also aid in rainwater retention, preventing runoff into Hamlin Pond. In conclusion, Patrick Dale's project proposal is a comprehensive and well thought out plan that not only addresses current code compliance issues, but also integrates environmentally friendly practices. I strongly endorse the approval of this project, recognizing its positive impact on the property, the surrounding environment, and the community. Clearly, that. One last note. This is from Jacques and Martha Moran of 11 Hamlin Road. Dear McManus and Board Chairman, I'm writing in regard to the application submitted by Mr. Patrick Dale et al. As it relates to the requested approval for their raise and replace application for 297 Monmouth Way Road in Mashpee. Both my wife and I reside at 11 Hamlin Road. Mr. Dale's most direct abutter to the south of his property line, excepting the small town way to water. Please note that both my wife and I fully support Mr. Dale's request and feel that given the current nature and condition of the existing home, that full replacement would be the most viable and practical solution for a few reasons. The first reason is that the home has without question reached its economic life hood. While it has served many families in the past, it is an estate that is currently outdated. The home has little insulation and is simply not suitable for year-round living in today's standards. The current building codes and regulations provide for energy efficient standards, stronger wind load requirements, energy efficient lighting and appliances, and plumbing fixtures that now require much lower water consumption. Secondly, the applicant seeks to provide the new installation of a denitrification system. That alone is just one more step towards a concern by the community by eliminating an older Title V system that does nothing to eliminate nitrogen loading. That system elimination is just one added step towards the intended goals of Mashpee to reduce electrification of our embayments, estuaries, and rivers, leaving the current updated home and footprint and the currently working Title V system does not assist in any way toward that common goal. Last, Mr. Dale has been a longtime member of the Mashpee community and owns a tree business in Mashpee that serves an environmental purpose by preserving trees, growing trees, and by then placing them into the community where needed. The service is an environmental contribution in the community. We hope the board's gives favorable consideration to the applicant's request, and we appreciate the opportunity the board has provided for us to weigh in on this important subject. Best, Jacques and Martha Moore in Hampton Road. Those are the letters that were submitted by the public. Like being back in school again. Okay. So. All concepts have been satisfied, the public is done, presentations are in, you have a list of things that we would like to see altered or changed.
Yes.
Where are we?
What date? We would like to request a continuance for a month from now for 2 meetings.
So the February meeting,
So-
if I remember.
We actually have one meeting in February and we are beyond booked for that. So it would be March 7th. Be the next one. Okay, so March 7th, that's 6:33.
March 7th. 6:33.
Correct, yes. You'll move.
No,
Thank you,
second.
Steve. Thank you, Alex. Motion made and seconded. March 7th.
Thank you.
We're not going to have any vote yet. We're following votes. And, I mean, you can leave it. Right? We're not.
March
done.
7th,
Yes.
yeah, 6:33.
Any further discussion by commissioners on the motion that we have on the table for the request for the continuance? Hearing none. Marjorie, you all set? No questions? She's all set. I can lip read that one. Okay, so let me call for a vote. Alex?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Marjorie?
Yes,
And I vote yes as well. Motion carries unanimously. We're moving on this.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
your,
again.
Thank you.
really, a lot of, thank you for yours.
Hey, how are you?
Now I know why. Important ones
Oh, yeah.
are long ones. Give me a minute to
Thank
catch my
you.
breath.
Thank you.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Oh, God.
Collect them up.
Guys, that was long.
I should let you read. What?
No, good job reading those. That was impressive. I didn't fumbling up in there.
I'm now going to call the 609 hearing for 137 Summer Sea Road, estate of Peter Huberman, proposed septic system upgrade, representative of Engineering Works Incorporated. This is an RDA.
Good evening. This is Peter McEntee with Engineering Works representing the estate of Peter Huberman. And we're proposing a septic upgrade. The existing house has a cesspool. The property lies on Aquay Bay, bordered by a salt marsh. And the house lies within the AE elevation 12 flood zone. We're proposing a new septic system about as far away from the wetland resource as we can, between the 100-foot and the 150-foot buffer. The leaching system is located just outside the A zone. We're proposing a gravity system. The access to the property is very, very restricted. We have a pretty steep slope driveway that goes down along the utility easement here. And the maneuverability of any type of vehicles is pretty restricted. I couldn't get around this corner with my truck without sideswiping one of those trees. So I'm proposing that, the tree removal, the trees down here in the circle be removed so that the trucks can get down there, and the heavy machinery that's digging up here for the septic system can load the trucks down in the lower part of the driveway. So we're proposing utility relocation of the electric, the gas, and the water to come around and into the house on the left side of the house. And we are keeping our 5-foot separation from what we observed as a tidal high groundwater of 1.9, and we're up around elevation 7 to the bottom of our leaching system. We're also proposing a sledgehammer S86 to be installed inside that tank to provide the alternative septic system requirement, satisfy the IA requirement by the Board of Health. The Board of Health has reviewed the plan and has approved it, and is just waiting for a contractor to be retained to put the system in, provided the Conservation Commission approve this plan. The areas that are disturbed here, there are several trees that need to be removed that are outside the 100-foot buffer. To restore the areas that are disturbed, which will be pretty much this whole area, I was just going to suggest that we put shrubs around the perimeter of the septic system, and then over the septic system have a New England native warm season grass mix. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Okay, thank you, Peter.
Mhm.
I'll go to commissioners first for questions that you might have for this proposal.
Are any trees being replaced at all?
I'm not proposing any tree replacement. There's not much room on the site to replace trees, to be honest with you. So, and it's a pretty sandy soil around the perimeter. There's a pretty steep slope between the road and around where the it flattens out where the SAS is going to be. And I don't want to have any trees over the septic system. So that's why I was suggesting the shrubs around the perimeter and the grass down below.
Is there any way to fill in more down closer to the resource area?
Fill in trees.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is room, but you know, it's, you know, we're proposing this, would like to be able to provide some sort of a viewing, you know, of the bay from that area too, and not, you know, block any of that with trees. So that's my own opinion. So.
Okay, Sandy?
Yeah, I had a question. There were 2 trees, located in a little island that's.
Yeah, right down.
Right of the house. Are those coming out?
Yes, well, I recommend they come out because it's just no way to, you know, drive down there with the heavy trucks. The circle, you know, if you have a small vehicle, you can get in there and into the driveway, but even with a small pickup truck like I have, I couldn't get around that little circle. So it's, you know, for the sake of maneuverability and, you know, practicality for parking, I would recommend that they be removed. Certainly because of the trucks that are going to have to get down there to do the construction. I don't know if you visited the site, but if you did drive down there, you probably know what I mean.
I didn't know why they couldn't just sort of pull in next to the carport, but maybe something bigger. Pickup truck.
They have mini excavators. I question the need for taking those 2 trees down. Also, I mean, they're very viable, healthy oak trees. There's one of the oak trees, I think it's the one, as I'm looking at the plan on the left, that's got a double branch that extends out close to the roof line of the house. That could be trimmed. But taking both of those trees out of there, I think are totally unnecessary. There's ways to get around with mini excavators.
Did you get down there with your car? Did you drive down the way with your car?
No, I have a Chevy Silverado. I parked up top, and there was several construction vehicles there doing work on for the town on the roadway. So
Okay.
Anyways,
Yeah, I mean,
it's a tough entrance. Period.
Yeah.
I mean, and there's nothing you can do about that. but I don't think it justifies taking trees down.
Well, if you take a Silverado down there and try to go around, you might have a different opinion, but you know, that there's gonna be some, you know, some triaxles backing down that driveway, so. So, I mean, that's my suggestion. I would think that, well, I mean, I don't, this tree here, if you can see where I'm pointing, this tree here would be the critical one for turning around, but as far as getting a heavy truck down there, I would think that that would be more in the way from a practical standpoint. And,
Do you have any questions?
No, I'm fine with everything. It is very, very steep side. I can see the trees coming out.
Yeah.
Where the septic system is, you know, I can see the water line, the gas line, everything coming around there, and the planting plan submitted, I'm fine with everything.
Yep.
It's a tough site. You know, I didn't look at those two trees that coming out down there, so I don't have an opinion either way on that, but,
Yeah.
you know, everything else that's being proposed with the, new septic system and the plantings. That's
Yeah,
fine.
those all have to come out. There's no way you can,
Yeah, it's not so steep there, so,
even if you tried to save them, there'd be so much root damage.
yeah,
Waste your time.
I'm fine with this proposal.
Okay, Marjorie's no longer with us, Drew?
No, I'm here. I can stay till about,
You're hiding. Sorry, Marjorie. Questions
I-
or comments that you have?
no, I'm good. I can stay till about 8, so I hope you have a quorum after that.
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah.
Okay, she has no questions. Let me ask. the
No, I
board.
know this property.
Any questions, comments? No? Okay, Drew, I'm gonna go to you for your,
So one of the things I would suggest, just because of the uncertainty of the removal of the two trees in the middle of the driveway, is maybe. Because as Pete described, you know, there's access problems regardless of what equipment they use, but let's say it just boils down to there is a legit access problem with the equipment they have. That you could condition that staff, take a look at that time, but in the absence of that being a concern, the tree should stay. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah.
To see during construction time, they say, look, we can't get equipment in here, we can't do this unless these trees are gone. Just to make sure that it's justified.
and in the worst case scenario, if they do have to come out because access is impossible, I would like to see 2 trees go back in, down closer to the resource area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I'm not fine with the other ones coming out, they have to, I mean, there's no way
Yeah.
to put that septic system in.
Good.
Those 2 trees, I mean, I've seen excavators that are
Yeah.
smaller than this table we're sitting at. I
Yeah,
don't really see the need,
yeah, there's definitely room down there to put in like Eastern Red or something without
yeah.
too much interference with the.
And without a lot of trucks there, I'd back a 10-wheeler down that driveway. I mean, that's why they have mirrors.
may I say something?
Yeah, Pete.
Uh,
Yeah.
oh. Yeah, so, there are 2 large stumps here that could be removed and have plantings, you know, in that area too. I mean, I didn't include them as being coming out of this part of this project because they really weren't in an area where I was proposing any work, but certainly in that area, that would be an area that we could, you know, put another 1 or 2 trees, I would think.
Not sure what area.
Yeah, what, we can't see your screen because I have my image on the screen, Pete.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
sorry about.
Okay, well,
But yeah, where,
there's a reserved area there. The utility easement goes down and it hits a reserved area between the properties on Sand Dollar
oh,
Road at the end of the driveway.
Right, see the reserve strip?
You know, it's good there.
Yeah, and there's, we
oh, yeah,
identified,
right, yeah,
Yes.
we identified 2 stumps there.
oh, yeah,
So, I mean,
yeah, that could be an area.
I would have liked to
that's
have
something-
removed them as part of the project, but they weren't really in the area where the septic was. So if those could come out and maybe put a couple of trees in that area, you know?
Well, we can take a look at what's suitable.
Yeah,
Can we approve this with them figuring it out with that?
It was a condition.
Yes.
Are you comfortable with that?
Okay, we're all set?
Yep.
All right, then I would accept a motion on this proposal.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion for negative determination for 137 Summersby Road, the state of Keating, mentioned that, during construction, that the contractor and Pete McAtee, talk with staff to see if if those trees are in the way. And then come up with a solution for new trees if they are, or if they're not, then they remain. That's, correct, yeah.
Do we want to retreat there with those stumps out anyway?
I would think if there's a possibility to get it within the 50-foot buffer to salt marsh, so would be more
That
advantageous.
would be,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So do that up with staff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can take a look and see
That's,
what's
that's the preferred location.
Yeah.
Yep. Is there a second to that motion?
But are you asking in general if we want those two
Yes.
replaced? Regardless of those?
Yeah, right, did we want it, what you said,
Right,
because of the other trees?
well, because there's
going out.
several trees
Right.
coming out.
That's what I meant.
Would we want to replace there regardless of whether or not? The
Because
two
of
in
the
the
other
island.
trees.
Well, the plantings with the other trees coming up the septic system, there's a whole planting plan that's gonna put in a lot of
Right,
planted, which is
warm.
heavily amount, because right now it's just, you know, understory leaves, junk,
Yeah,
and that's gonna be much better.
yeah, it's a nice planting.
Okay, so, fine. I'll second,
Second,
as needed.
all right. Any discussion on the motion? You okay, Marjorie?
I'm good. I'm hanging in there.
Okay,
Thank you.
no discussion? All right, let me call for a vote. Alex?
Yes,
Sandy?
Yeah.
Steve?
Yes,
Marjorie?
Yes, sir.
And I vote yes as well, motion carries. Okay, thank you. Let's move to 6:12.
at 7:53.
I know, hey,
This is the last one.
Okay, I'm gonna open up the 6:12 hearing for 120 Wheeler Road, Mary Ellen Ford trustee. This is a proposed septic system upgrade. Representative is Engineering Works Inc., and it's an RDA.
Good evening, Peter McAtee with Engineering Works representing John and Mary Ellen Ford for the upgrade of a failed septic system that property lies on the Shumet Pond. The closest resource area is top of an inland bank, Mashpee Inland Bank. And so what we're proposing is, it's a very long, deep lot, so we're proposing a combination septic tank pump chamber. The septic tank will have an S86 sledgehammer to satisfy the requirement of the Board of Health for an IA system. And we're pumping, the tank is located in the driveway already. It's going to be heavy duty. We requested a variance for depth of cover because of the elevation of the pipe coming out of the house. And from that tank, we have a force main going up to two 500-gallon chambers located just outside the 150-foot buffer to the inland bank. It's a fairly open lot. I don't anticipate the removal of any significant vegetation. I think we're just trying to do the best we can to keep it out of the resource area, out of the buffer to the resource area, that is. I share my screen, but you can't see it.
Sorry, we got photographs, we got your plan. Your cover.
Okay. Yes. So if anybody has any questions,
All right, I'll go to Commissioner Turks for questions or comments.
as none, it's fine.
You all set?
I have none.
Andy? When I
Okay.
first looked at this, I was under the impression that a new tank was going in, but then I look at note number 6. And it says, if the existing septic tank is determined to be incompatible for inserting the sledgehammer unit, a new 1,500-gallon 2-compartment tank shall be installed with the sledgehammer in
Nope.
this compartment.
okay, that
Is that correct, Peter?
that is
existing
not
tank safe?
applicable. I can remove that from my plan. So,
So that note doesn't belong there?
no, it doesn't. It's a general note that got pulled over, into
Yeah,
that.
it confused me when I saw it. I thought.
I apologize for that.
The new tank, or is it, are they saving the old?
No,
one, or-
yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, with these sledgehammers, you can retrofit them in existing tanks and what we've been finding out is, some of the older septic tanks have a big concrete baffle at the inlet and you can't break that off. So, we have to make sure it has a T that we can remove and replace. So, but in this particular situation, that doesn't apply. So, I'll be sure to take that off, get it to the Board of Health, and we're planning on a new
The
tank.
older tank is coming out of the ground.
Yeah.
What the site got.
Yeah, like you said, the old tanks, they try to put the core in, sometimes the
They
bath
don't fit, right.
just won't go in, so they have to replace this thing.
I figured it was a standard no, but then I thought, wait a minute, maybe they're trying to.
No.
say tank.
Well, thank you.
Copy paste.
Yeah.
All right, I
Yeah.
don't have any other questions.
It's good to identify that, though, So,
I don't miss much.
yeah.
Marjorie, do you have any questions?
No, sir, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Questions from the public? Not a lot of public left here. Newspaper, no? Two, comments?
So Board of Health has approved the proposed septic design plan for IE system to service existing 3-bedroom dwelling. Permit is pending, no comments from building or harbor master or natural resources. And, my comments there. No tree removal, sledgehammer system, IA, sledgehammer is one of the more advanced technologies and may even be beneficial in removing phosphorus. So absolutely recommend negative determination.
Okay. All right. Peter's still with us. I just have a question on sledgehammer, Peter.
Yes.
Are there enough of those now out in the field to satisfy the DEP requirement that this be an accepted viable system, or what's going on with that?
There's still, I don't know what the total number is across the state, but, in Mashpee, it's still maybe 3 or 4 that have been put in the past, not too many over the past 5 or 6 months. There are some that have been in for several years, for a decade actually. I haven't looked at the testing results on those though.
Is there a way of finding out from the DEP what the count is statewide and where we are in terms of having them, grant their blessings on this?
I can look into that.
That'd be great if you could. I'd appreciate that information.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Steve, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, that's all right. I just want to make a motion for negative determination for 120 Wheeler Road, Mary Ellen, Board trustee.
Second.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Steve. A discussion amongst the commissions. You good, Marjorie?
I'm
Bill?
good, sir. I'm good. Thank you for asking.
All right, I'll take a vote. Alex?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
Marjorie?
Yes, sir.
I vote yes as well. Motion carries. Thank you, Peter.
Guys, I'm bailing. I thank you very much. It was good to see your faces.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
sticking out for all the hearings.
I'm so happy. Yes. All right, now I'm gonna go to bed for 3 days. Goodbye.
Okay.
Bye.
Take
One
care.
last
Be
one to
safe.
call here. Actually, there's a couple. There's an extension one as well, right?
Oh, yes, there's 4, there's a lot,
Yeah,
5 CO.
And there's an issue at the tail end of it.
Yeah,
We'll get to that.
getting resolved.
So let's go to 6:15, hearing for 61 Shoestring Bay Road. 61 Shoestring Bay Road LLC. This is a proposed construction of a single-family home with pool, patio, garage, and driveway, including associated landscaping, hardscaping, mitigation plantings, and pathway to Salt Marsh. Representative is WRS Engineering LLC. This is a notice of intent. We did get a request today, fairly late today, to continue this hearing. You may recall that this project was denied by the commission, and they have refiled under a separate notice of intent, correct, Drew?
That's correct, yes.
All right,
The denial was under an amended order, or previous order.
right. And there was a lot of information that was submitted, I believe it's 2 days ago, page after page after page after page, and I said to Drew, we're just so far beyond the filing deadline, and there's just way too much historical information here with lots and exhibits and everything else. I would not allow it in for deliberation. If it was buried on the project, then they should ask for a request for a continuance. At first, they weren't willing to do that, but now all of a sudden today they are. So I guess that's a good thing.
Common sense.
Common sense to me. So that's the reason for the request, more or less. I believe they want us to have enough.
They want to have the
information.
opportunity to read the 198-page document.
Can't wait to dig in. I might actually start it tonight when I go home.
However, so, yeah.
Yeah, I'll get at least to lot number 5 or exhibit 12 or whatever it might be. So with that, I accept the motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Steve.
Second.
Thank you, Sandy. Motion made and seconded for the continuance, and the date would be
February 15th, February 51.
6:51. Okay. No further discussion?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Steve?
Yes.
And Marjorie's gone, correct?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well, so that motion carries to February 15. Okay.
Really good at continuing.
Yeah, we moved those along really quick. 618, 48 Captain Road, Stephen R. and Janet Rinnie. Request to extend order of conditions, DEP number 433099, Representative Cape and Islands Engineering, Inc. This is a extension of almost big.
Yeah, just to give you some background on this extension request, we always ask why permits being extended, just so we have the rationale. So there were several issues with, how the project panned out here as far as they had submitted a previous certificate of compliance request, which is under consideration. Too much lawn, the lawn exceeded the threshold, not enough mitigation plantings. I think there was some
There was a parking lot issue.
parking lot issues. All of it's being rectified. They're working with Cape and Islands Engineering and Tyler Gaudreau of Landscape Solutions. So they're on it, but they decided they didn't have to do this, but they wanted to extend the order of conditions to cover the period where they're complying with all the issues in their COC requests. Typically, in this scenario, if an order is expiring, and there's an issue with the COC inspection, because it's already built into the order what they were supposed to do, it doesn't matter if it's expired or not, but they went ahead and filed for the extension request anyway.
Right.
So I just figured that's fine. We're covered either way. So that's the reason for the extension request.
Did they specify the length of extension they're interested in?
1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're eligible to up to 3, correct?
Yeah, but these are issues that can easily be handled.
Right, so they just want a single year.
Just a year.
That's kind of like a safety net. He just wanted to make sure there was no complication
Sure.
here.
Yeah.
He had a contractor issue already that clearly he doesn't want to ever run into again.
Yeah.
Right, so.
Okay, so any questions or comments from commissioners? Then I would accept the motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Steve.
Second.
Thank you. Sandy. Motion made and seconded to extend this order of conditions for 1 year.
43-3099.
Sorry, I didn't read it over. I should have read that into the record. Why, the reason I didn't, oh, I see it, 433099. Any further discussion amongst commissioners? None? I'll take a vote. Alex?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Steve?
Yeah.
I vote yes as well. Motion carries, so that order is extended for 1 year from tonight. Okay, we have a series of certificate of compliances. The first one, I'll read the numbers, they should be fine.
Yeah.
The first one is scheduled for 6/21 at COC number 431069. That passed with no issues. The one at 6/24 for COC number 431115 passed with no issues. The next one, COC scheduled for 6/27 at 431196 passed with no issues. The one after that, COC 432675 passed with no issues. And then we come to the last one, which is COC 433145. This is 30 Sandollar Lane. all the work was completed in accordance with the plan of record. However, no submittal of a signed 3-year mitigation maintenance contract as per the OOC requirement. Thus, the COC will not be issued until a signed contract is received. Applicant has been notified and needs to comply. So we're gonna hold off on signing that one.
Well, that was my question to the commission. If you want to sign it and then get that out of the way, and then once I receive the signed contract, we can issue it. Or if you want to wait, and I can show you the signed contract, or you can leave it up to staff.
We can sign it and you just not release it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
That's fair.
I just want to give you the option.
Yeah.
That'd be a smoother way of handling it.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. So there you
and I've
go.
already spoken to a landscaper who they hired, so he's drafting up the contract, and it'll be done by either tomorrow or early next week.
Great. And any kind of a time frame that they're focused on, or?
So, yeah, it has to be for the 3 years for the mitigation, so we'll start this spring, the first inspection.
Yeah.
and Fall, and so on and so forth for the next 3 years.
Okay. Yeah. Great. All right, so those hearings were bad. Yeah. Very,
The newspaper.
oh,
Since we don't have Mass TV with us tonight, would everyone be amenable to me recording the duration of the meeting from here out?
I have no objections to that whatsoever. It's a
Yeah.
public meeting.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to go up to the pre and post hearing agenda. I believe we do not have a set of minutes for approval. We're still waiting on receiving some of those.
We're on it.
Okay,
We are on it. Mission catch up.
under discussion, I think I'll drop down a few bullets and I will go to the introduction of Russ Wilcox, who has expressed.
May decide if it's.
I'm surprised he hasn't run out the door, but he has expressed a introduction and an interest in joining the Conservation Commission. I believe you all have his letter of interest, his CV as well. And do you all have a copy of 001 evaluation form?
I did send it out to everyone.
Is it in here though for us to fill out or?
Yeah, it's on the selectment policy 001, it's part of that same document.
I have, I think I printed off like 3 copies.
Yeah, so it's not in our packet though. Or it is?
It's not, I didn't see it. I have 3 copies that I ran off on my printer. I can share 2 of them, but I need one for myself.
It's just not clear.
Can you just get a photocopy of one of them?
Yeah. Yeah,
You only need 4, right?
Yep. yeah.
I have one.
Oh, you've got one?
Oh, look at you.
Yeah, second.
Would you have the sheet, show
I don't
them
know.
the sheet, do you have that? Steve?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
All right.
You know,
Look at that, huh? So Sandy gets that one, Alex, you get that one, I got one.
We're prepared or
So we all have one? We're good with that? Okay, so let me, just look through my paperwork here quick, I wanna get. Okay. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Pleasure to meet you.
Nice to see you.
You've seen the commission in action here a little bit. This is not our usual scenario. We get stuck down here in this little room. We typically upstairs. What I'll do is I'll let you introduce yourself and you can go through the rationale of why you're here and why you'd like to join. And then I believe commissioners would have some questions for you.
Sure. Hello, commissioners. Thank you, Chair Colombo, for having me here. As I stand before you, eager to embark on the role of Conservation Commissioner, I am deeply aware of the delicate balance we must strike in the town we call home. My journey from a curious child swimming in the waters of Mashpee to a now globally recognized data scientist has been rooted in the values of this community. Values that cherish both our natural environment, but also our economic vitality. In these challenging times, where our waters face unprecedented threats and our middle-class families bear the brunt of economic pressures, my commitment to Mashpee has never been stronger. As a third-generation resident and a product of Mashpee High School, I have witnessed the transformation of our community, a transformation that calls for a renewed dedication to environmental stewardship without losing sight of the economic lifeline crucial to our middle class. My career, marked by advancements in sustainability and artificial intelligence, including My role as state and federal expert witness and dedicated speakers for events such as TEDx Boston and the World Economic Forum in Davos reflects my commitment to this balanced approach. I stand here today ready to leverage my experience as a state and federal expert witness to guide Mashpee towards a future where environmental health and economic prosperity coexist in harmony, where my viewpoints will be determined solely based on facts and the merits of cases presented. Our path forward must be determined one of collective action, ensuring that every decision we make on this board secures a thriving, sustainable, and economically robust tomorrow for all residents of Mashpee. As I envision my role as Conservation Commissioner on this commission, I see a bright future where we implement strategies not only to protect our environment, but also drive economic growth, particularly benefiting our middle-class families who are integral to Mashpee's vitality. With a commitment to an unbiased and data-informed approach, I am looking to unite our community's diverse perspective in crafting sustainable solutions in the uncertain climatic times we live in today. Leveraging my background in data science, artificial intelligence, and sustainability, I plan on focusing on enhancing the health of all water systems while also promoting sustainable development as the case is brought before this board. My goal is to lead with informed, balanced decision-making that reflects and serves the diverse needs of our community, fostering a thriving and sustainable Mashpee for all. Building on this vision of collaborative and sustainable growth, we must embrace the opportunities presented by the evolving technological landscape. In this new era where technology plays an increasingly significant role, we have an opportunity to leverage tools like artificial intelligence responsibly to help inform the data-driven decision-making of this board. My experience as a consultant, combined with my insights from various deep engagements in sustainability, has reinforced my belief that the power of artificial intelligence to optimize resource management and bring innovative solutions to our environmental challenges and help solve the water crisis and the interesting and ever-evolving climatic changes of the town I call home. This thoughtful integration of advanced technology with our time-honored approaches goes beyond mere environmental protection. It opens the door for new economic opportunities for Mashpee. We are at the vanguard of a time where the judicious use of technology can significantly enhance both our natural and economic landscapes. By focusing on sustainable development, we are poised to not only help the community members that we call home, but also create a new thriving community that attracts responsible investments and ensures a thriving, equitable future for every resident of Mashpee. In closing, I sit here not just as a nominee of the Conservation Commission, but as a steadfast believer in the bright future of Mashpee. Our journey together is more than a mission to balance environmental stewardship with economic prosperity. It is a journey towards realizing the full potential of our community. With the unwavering spirit of Mashpee's residents, the resilience that runs deeply in our town's history, and the innovative solutions at our fingertips, there is no challenge too great for us to overcome. As I look on the horizon, I see a Mashpee that leads by example, where data helps inform the decision makings in front of this board, where we're able to unify the town around us despite differences in bifurcations of development practices, of sustainable practices, of all of the issues that are confronting the board today. I seek to join this board as a solemn mind to look at all of the decisions made by this board objectively and put forth data-driven decision-making that will help influence and hopefully prepare Mashpee for the future climatic outcomes that are due to hit Cape Cod. Thank you for having me in front of this board.
So I think I'll start and then we'll go from there. I read through your CV.
Thank you.
Quite impressive. And I know it starts way back when you were at Woods Hole.
Yes.
First, I guess my first question would be, what particular role did you play at the Oceanographic Institute? Just give me a little bit of background.
Sure. My role is a physical science technician with the United States Geological Survey. And I was looking at the geophysical structures of a substance called methane gas hydrate. So 500 millimeters below the seafloor, methane is actually more stable, being a solid rather than a gas. And in understanding its properties, we really have to be cognizant of geophysical properties, many similar to what we see today with issues around septic and zoning. And during my research there, I was tasked with civil engineering experiences, data analysis, and really trying to understand what this alternative energy solution would do to impact one, the economy, but also global climate change.
Okay, thank you. I'll go on to you guys. I have another question, but I'll wait.
I just wondered, how available are you going to be for
I will
like site visits and, you know,
I,
not just the meetings, but
I understand. I take the development of my community and my home seriously. I will make myself incredibly available to my fullest extent to ensure that all of my decision-making is not only reflective of the cases presented in front of the board, but also direct evidence by visiting sites as needed.
What's your knowledge of reading plans and, you know, walking site with plans and putting things together and figuring things out on that end of it? Knowledge of like flood zones and vegetation and things like that.
I would say that it is continually growing, but there is a strong foundation. My company, Artifacts AI, focuses on sustainable development, where we ingest a variety amount of data in the geospatial aspect. So understanding areas such as FEMA flood zones, GIS maps, property plans, building codes, are testament to how we build our products and how we inform our clients in terms of data-driven decision-making. So to answer your direct question more directly, while I don't have direct experience as a civil engineer, I am able to bring an analytical mindset and a strong determination in terms of how certain geophysical properties or boundaries will impact not only the environment, but the neighboring area as well.
Yeah, so you're comfortable with reading the plan, but then you need to learn a bit more as time goes on and the nuances of it and the details and things like that.
Yes.
Okay.
Let me ask you this. You obviously have a fairly strong background in data analysis. You were here tonight to listen to one of the presentations. There's a mindset, not just here tonight, but there's a mindset amongst the general public that when we get a storm like we just got, that it's a once in a 50-year scenario, and that's a 100-year storm. It'll never happen again. Unfortunately, it is happening over and over and over again. How would you find yourself 6 months from now sitting on the commission to be able to use your skill set with data analysis to bring some convincing evidence to people that come in and claim that, oh, this will just go away. This is not something we really have to be worried about.
Yeah, so fundamentally, and I've had this experience serving both as state and federal officials in both the state of California and the Southern District of Columbia. Oftentimes convincing the general public of complicated data things is challenging. But I think storms such as the one evidenced several days ago starts to bring the idea home. And so to do that, what we have to do is we have to look at a blend of both historical data using a variety of different data sources. One example project that I've looked at is looking at the well water levels in the state of Massachusetts. Mashpee alone has over 800 wells that are registered with the DEP, and that gives us allows us to see an understanding of this water level at the baseline and how it varies over time. We have to realize that we don't just live in a single data point of a visual representation. We have to look at both the past and the future moving forward. And so to help convince the public, such as the one individual who is saying, well, this is just once in a 50-year occurrence, I say, one, I fundamentally disagree. We have to look at where things are changing in not only our local municipality, but the area around us and the climate of the globe. And so to do that, we have to look holistically, not only just what's occurring in Mashpee, but also communities around us who might have a different perspective, that have a very similar inherent system that we live in, for example, maybe Orleans or Fairhaven. And that's how I think we can bring the public to help understand that the Mashpee we live and call home is different than it was 20 years ago. And it's going to be different 10 years from now. So we have to transform this mindset of living in 1990 to something that is forward speaking, that can only be shown by looking at both historical data and the current cases brought in front of the board, and looking at holistically and telling a story that resonates with the local communities, that say, well, hey, I might not fully agree with this idea of climate change, but I see these storms occurring more and more frequently, and the flooding is going to get worse. And I hope that that would be enough to start changing that public mindset towards large-scale climate crises that we are observing today.
Let me borrow this just for a second. This is what's called the Bible for Conservation Commissioners, with all of the regulations from the state. It's the local regulations, bylaws here in Ashby. Every commissioner is afforded a membership with the Massachusetts Association of Conservation Commissioners. They offer an unbelievable amount of training. I'm assuming you've never been on a conservation commission before. And it's driven by regulations, and once you read them and once you understand them, you have to live by them. And you would certainly have your hands full over the next several months. Would you be willing to take your own free time? I believe the town pays for the training.
Sometimes on a reimbursement basis, depending on the cycle of payroll.
Right. And I believe a lot of it's online, the fundamentals.
Most of it's online.
most of it is They have courses where you would become a certified fundamental conservation commissioner. In other words, they verify that you're fully aware of the regulations, and because everything we do is based on the regulations. We all have our views, our opinions, our thoughts, what we'd like to see in a perfect world, but you have to live by the book. And sometimes it works, and sometimes we find things, especially in bylaw review subcommittee, that need to be fixed. They need to be changed. It's constantly evolving. Even the DEP now is working on LSCSF regulations that will hopefully come out soon.
Land subject.
What's that?
Land subject to coastal zone.
Yes.
Land subject to coastal going forward. So would you be willing to sacrifice your own time
I
to
would.
keep going with that?
Yes.
That's great. Okay, I have no further questions. Drew?
Yeah, so, by its very nature, regulatory language has a lot of cross references, like a dizzying amount of cross references. So you read a regulatory section and it makes reference to another section 2 or 3 pages earlier. So when I'm not asking you a question, I'm just kind of imparting to you, how you should approach reading the Wetlands Protection Act and what to expect. There's policies and procedures as far as permitting and timelines and deadlines and things like that. Then there's actual performance standards in each regulation. And what a performance standard means is it is the function of that particular type of wetland or wetland resource area, what it does in its natural function. And that should be the baseline for you to evaluate a particular project and how it's going to either adversely impact that performance standard or standards or not, or if the project can be conditioned to meet the performance standards. And that's really what the commission has practiced in evaluating all these projects. Performance standards are the key, and you will see them in every inland and coastal wetland resource, wetland or wetland resource area throughout the regs. And just one final comment regarding those 2 terms, wetland and wetland resource area. Do you know what the difference is between those 2?
At a technical level, no.
Okay, so wetlands are actual wet areas. They have hydric soils, they have bordering vegetated wetland, obligate wetland plants that can't survive out of wet conditions. Wetland resource areas are areas that are transitioned between uplands and actual wetlands. And wetlands can include rivers, streams, lakes, ponds, ocean, estuaries, you name it, it's a wetland. The resource areas are those transition areas. So if you have a house on the coast, you've got coastal dune, you've got coastal beach, then you've got the ocean. Beach, dune, resource areas, ocean, wetlands. So just to kind of, that's the example, I always bring up when it comes to differentiating the 2. And I don't differentiate the 2 to say that one is afforded less protection than the other. They are indeed equally protected, some even more robustly than others. But it's just important to realize the difference in what each term actually means, what it's referring to. So with that, I wish you all the best of luck, and I think he'd make a really great addition to the commission.
Thank you.
Dan, would you like to ask a question?
No, everything's pretty much covered. It sounds like, your heart's there and that's definitely what matters.
Thank you.
Great. Well, any questions that you might have?
No, I thank you for your time and, thank you for all of the service that you do here for the town of Mashpee.
Great. Well,
We didn't scare you tonight.
I've been worse, far worse in terms of depositions and talks than this, so I'm excited if I were to be a part of this board to help push Mashpee towards a brighter, more sustainable future.
Okay, so, what we will do is we will fill out our evaluation form. And it's a rating scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the strongest and 1 being the weakest. We will turn all of these in to Drew.
Yep.
And we will, take a motion on whether we want to recommend Russ to the select board. We would be required to attend a future select board meeting. They may have a few questions asked of you, and they actually make the appointment. We don't, we just recommend.
So I just want to leave one last comment. While I might have direct experience, I will say I am a quick learner. Secondly, I do have experience in the earth and geophysical sciences. My undergraduate degree is in physics and earth science. And while I might have not known the strong technical differentiations between the wetlands, I've taken courses in sedimentology, geophysical fluids, and I will be a quick learn to understand and apply the regulations in a way that would honor the decision making of this board.
Great. You know, and your willingness to attend the MACC
Yes.
training that's key.
Yes, I will 100% commit to that.
That'd be a good resource for you. Well, great. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you'd like. You want to take a minute and fill this out and
Should we schedule that for next time? What's that? The motion for the motion for.
Oh, yeah, so we'll add this to the pre-post for the next meeting for
Yeah.
motion to accept. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful couple weeks.
Thank you, Russ.
The road has a thick one. I'm not contagious. Yeah, it's like, I've already had 3 orders. Greg, you know, it's like, okay, you got that time and now.
Yeah, I know.
Wait, okay, I'll put my mask on and help everybody out.
We have to turn these in now.
Okay.
I mean, if you wanna
Can I wait?
do it later and still drop it off, that's fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Nothing really of any consequence, shall we go through on the
There are a couple
Okay.
things, that I think we should,
discuss?
yeah, for pre-post agenda items.
Yeah.
Can I make a request? Can we remove the land acquisition subcommittee
Yeah.
just from the agenda for now?
Yeah.
Cool. And then we can always bring it back, but it's just kind of taking space at the moment.
What was that one in this week?
The land acquisition subcommittee,
Oh, okay.
because we're wrapping,
Yeah.
we're doing open space. And,
We could just have, updates from EOC. Something like that, if you want. You don't have to, I'm just saying, offering it. if you
yeah, I'm
keep-
wondering, there's just so many things on there.
Yeah,
Maybe when there's things applicable, like worth bringing, but I guess if it's standing, then it.
yeah, then
falls
we
into
always have it,
place.
you don't have to worry
Yeah,
about
we could
That's
skip
true.
it.
having it
break
last
and-
minute.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
better to have a placeholder than not,
Okay.
Exactly. I think that, because anything can pop up at any time.
right?
All right, let's move to the proposed amendments for the buffer zone references in chapter 172. Drew has spent a lot of time going through not only the bylaws, but the regulations themselves, and it's a daunting task to find every 50 and every 100 and move them around and change them around. I
It's like a
think-
game.
Yeah.
But not really. a
Super
fun-
Mario. And
Yeah, but not really.
we actually finalized that at our last bylaw review committee. We found a couple of little things. I know it was that 35.
Yeah.
We moved up to 50.
And actually, I was thinking that too, when we had that shed. I was thinking, well, is this within the 35 that shall be, or like the triple negative? in that
Yeah,
sentence?
Yeah.
But I believe we've got a pretty accurate, grasp on all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too.
So the plan would be to take this now, and bring it to public hearing,
Correct, yeah, so
March 20, or January 25th.
I think we could do January 25th. You know, it's a full agenda. I mean, this would be advertised, so home rule authority changes to regulations, requires listing as a hearing on the agenda, just like any other hearing.
Yeah.
And then we just describe, you know, what it is we're proposing as far as amendments. And then everyone should have this is town council's recommended motion language.
Yeah.
That will take care of multiple amendments in one motion, which is great.
And that language we'll use next time, once it's posted.
Once, yeah, so the first hearing is gonna solicit public feedback, and based on recent history, the public doesn't really pay much attention when we change regulations, so. Assuming there's no changes from the public, no compelling, feedback that would compel you to change, anything about this, but this is really housekeeping mostly.
Yeah.
So, what I would recommend is, you have the hearing for public comment, and if there's no public comment, then I would just move to, promulgate. Or you could just put it off to the next meeting. Actually,
Could
You
you
probably
probably
should.
at that meeting?
You
If there
could,
is no-
because you don't need town review, town council review, he's already reviewed it.
right, so you could conceivably, and we could put on the hearing, public comment and promulgation.
Yeah,
As far as the hearing, then we have to spread it out over 2 meetings.
and then if there is
But if there is
compelling
public
comment,
comment,
then we don't have to
Then
promulgate.
you don't
we
have to
can take it
promulgate,
into
you can incorporate it if you
Well,
want.
it's paperwork is what it is. I mean,
I
even
can't
tonight,
imagine.
we had to request the 50s to be changed to 75s, and
Yeah. I can't imagine anyone's gonna have a problem with this, other than
it's
just.
already passed town
Yeah.
meeting,
Yeah.
so.
I agree.
Not having with the extension of public zone in general, but that's already kind of gone.
Yeah.
This is all just reflecting
It's
bylaws.
paperwork, there's nothing that you
Yeah.
can argue about.
No,
at
there
this
really
stage of The game that's been approved.
Yeah, and it's just low hanging fruit, so we can get.
So, yeah, we should, probably, I'll take one more last ride through it to make sure we haven't missed
Yeah.
anything. I don't
I
think.
think there was something I had to add to the chart, where I made reference to all the changes, I think I missed one, but I had.
I was gonna ask you. What about the regulation 12 mitigation chart, because that only goes to
So I-
50.
Updated it,
Oh, you did?
and I changed it so that the 0 to, or the 5 to 20-foot setbacks, of the last 2 hour setbacks of 5-foot increments are a minimum of 2 to 1.
Okay,
That's the most substantive change to the chart. I'll send it out to everybody.
okay.
I've been providing it to everyone because.
Thought of
we
that,
have-
I went, wait a second, what about that chart?
Yeah, so that's gonna be another thing we need to do, make a regulatory amendment for.
Mhm.
I didn't ask town council about that because I didn't want to get too convoluted in
Yeah,
one amendment. But I'll come up, I'll ask town council, I don't even think we need his feedback on that, but I can come up with a motion, have them check on it, approve it. And then we can get the chart changed,
mhm.
updated to reflect the 150-foot buffer zone. So
Okay.
it does increase a little bit in the outer, but I mean, with the closer you get to the resource area, the numbers obviously go higher, but the further back, it was 1 to 1. Remember the 50 to 100 was 1
Yeah.
to 1, so
Yeah.
now it's 2 to 1.
True, yeah,
Yeah.
because that's the minimum.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly, yeah.
Okay.
I'll send that out to everyone tomorrow, so you have it.
On a side note, the green layer is in the GIS map for the buffer zone already. That had to be
Claims.
just click.
I saw that. Hey, what?
Really?
I thought it was a big file, he's already done.
I read today.
will.
But we talked about that on Tuesday, wanting that.
Yeah, it's okay.
That's so nice.
Wait a
Oh my
minute.
God. Let's do it rather than like,
It's there, just like
That's
that.
awesome. He really.
It's nice when you can just click a few keys.
Oh,
and it happens.
well, there you go. Holy shit.
Is he done?
Yeah, because in our discussion, we were thinking it was gonna take a while to do all of those.
we need to like lobby for town support.
No, no.
Wow.
It's easy.
Yeah, like please
Easy
give us
peasy.
this.
There was I'm gonna move on to the next discussion. I think we're all set with.
Yeah.
With that, right?
Yeah.
I
We'll put
didn't,
that on, just to verify, we'll put this on the January 25th, yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't bring a bunch of copies of this, but I made one copy. This morning in the Cape Cod Times, public comments wanted, Mass Environmental Agency plans new rules for waterfronts. This was on the front page of the Times today. It's a fairly lengthy article about developing in waterfront areas and all the new DEP regulations are
Oh,
up for
yeah.
public comment. And they
Yeah.
give links to all of the places, the Zoom links, if you want to go online with the DEP and make your
Yeah.
comments.
And it also says that-
That's this link right here, right?
That is the link, well, that's the link to all of the red line.
The red
There's-
line.
there's
Three public informational sessions this month, and
Yeah.
there's,
they also
Three
want info
public.
from condoms, right?
yeah, we
Yeah,
will be giving.
the
a
webinars and Q and A sessions, like, from now until the beginning of February.
Yeah,
And you'll see the links.
And is it like, we would attend the public sessions, or are we sending something as a commission?
Well, it's Q and A, you can identify yourself as.
Our plan as of right
They're
now,
all Zoom. things.
yeah.
Yeah,
As
you
it
can
is.
identify yourself as a
did.
commissioner, you know, but there's no separate process for commissioners.
Okay, I wasn't sure if they were like
We,
soliciting.
we've been
Yeah, yeah.
reviewing the draft revisions and going over them, and we're gonna make a comment at one of the meetings, at one of the public sessions, because, especially with the new regulation for land subject coastal and flow,
It's pretty much in line with the bylaw review committee's doing.
yes,
Really.
yeah.
I would say that, just to point out, because it's a lot of reading and it's boring, obviously.
No.
Uh, So, focus on 8B, section 8B, boy. Because that deals with the majority of projects in land subject coastal flow that we typically see, which is with an existing development.
Yeah,
That whole section deals with redevelopment in a flood zone, and 8A deals with, new development. Undeveloped parts, which there aren't many left.
No.
Right.
Majority of what we see are previously altered, so 8B is the section you want to probably pay the most attention to.
I have copies of just the flood zone revisions. if anybody wants.
Yeah, and I sent out a PDF of that.
I was surprised to see that even the DEP is saying to live with the existing footprint.
They stated right there,
Yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty clear.
that's,
10.36 HC, no expansion of footprint at all in
Yeah.
redevelopment.
One thing too that you'll see, I just want to point this out, because it was really not very clear, for the stormwater standards, which are also in that link, there's many amendments to the DEP stormwater standards. All of these, smart, low impact designs, for swales and gardens and treatment, everything like that. But just keep in mind, because Dan had been under the impression, and myself too, after reading it, oh my God, do these huge engineering calculation requirements apply to single family lots, residential homes? They don't.
they don't, no.
They are, single family homes are exempt from DEP stormwater standards.
Oh, yeah.
Commercial.
I was-
commercial, like multifamily homes.
Multifamily
under
homes
four
or more.
or less don't qualify.
Keep
Yeah, I
that
read
in mind,
that.
because it's easy to read through that. and be like, oh
However,
my God, the homeowner
I
has to
did
do all
read
this, but you could.
You
still
read the
condition-
notice of intent first, and it explains you have to submit the stormwater plan, and then when you get to the stormwater section, it outlines that you don't, because it's not residential exempt.
Yeah, it's at the very end of the
When you
section. On
When you
purpose.
start looking at
I missed that
the
one.
housing production plan, the draft is being reviewed. A lot of that's gonna apply to it, because they're not single family homes any longer. They're,
Right.
they're looking to increase density and,
Right.
cluster development type of things.
And that doesn't mean that you can't condition stormwater improvements on a property, it's got nothing to do with it, it just means the DEP stormwater standards don't
Don't
apply. to it.
apply.
Right.
And there's other sections they're revising, they're adding a scientific research project section, so it makes it. You still have to permit scientific research projects, but it makes it a more streamlined, easier process, I guess I'll say that, requires results. Not that it's just something they can do and show you no results, it requires a set result.
And most importantly, there's like a one sentence revision clarification that says BBW exists in inland and coastal areas.
Yes.
Because right now it's only under inland regs, right, and BBW exists coastal or inland, and they
Well, that's
clarified
nice.
that finally.
Well, coming from inland reg environments, when I started looking at
Yeah.
coastal regulations, I thought, why isn't this here?
Yeah.
Why didn't they do this?
It's
Why
stuck
do
in
we
my
do
craw
that?
for years, like, why don't they just change it, let's add BBW to coastal, please.
One of the ones I think will be interesting is 10.02. One of their revisions is with statement of jurisdiction. They are allowing projects to be conducted within the flood zone that do not require permitting at all.
Yeah, there's exemptions,
So
like
there is
fences with spacing requirements.
Yep.
It's really
Planting,
innocuous.
planting of any natives, sheds less than 100 square feet, vista pruning, impervious conversion, and then lawn to other vegetated use. And the question I'm gonna have for them is, it literally just says lawn to other vegetated use. So for me is, does that mean they can just install a horticulture bed wherever they want? Because if that's the case, then that might be
Clarification.
that might be abused, quite frankly. Because you're gonna have people just turning lawns, and then a lawn might require, 2 pounds of fertilizer for every 2,000 square feet, where a horticulture bed could require a whole bag of it for just one tiny bed. So it's one of those things that I'm definitely gonna be asking on that aspect.
Right, and then if they do change it, and if they do start using an area as something else, can it then also be converted back to one?
Well, but the thing with me is, it doesn't require permits, so we would never know.
Right, and like, does that mean that then like lawn could inadvertently end up being expanded
Mhm.
because, oh, well, I planted these and they didn't take, so then I replaced it with
It
lawn.
does say you can't just replace the lawn back.
Okay.
You have to
That's
keep
it.
it to whatever you put it in.
So our standards are stricter
So,
under
yes.
Reg 31 anyway, when it comes to lawns, we already have standards above and beyond the state under our bylaw when it comes to that kind of scenario.
The
Right,
nice one was impervious surfaces, so they can, if they're gonna repurpose their impervious surface to impervious surface, they can do that without a permit, which is nice, because that'll allow people in certain areas of town to redo their driveways or garden, not garden beds, walkways, things like that, without having to even talked to us.
And I don't really understand the vista pruning, because if you're
Yeah,
landlocked in the 100-year floodplain, where are you getting a vista to? Your neighbor's house?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't really understand
The
that.
water's that
And
way.
we have obviously required notice for vista pruning when you're within 150 feet of a resource area wetland, so. That again is stricter than the state.
Under water quality, anybody have anything they want to add?
I do.
Yes.
And it's not good news,
Mhm.
unfortunately. So there's been a lot of investigation into the PFAS, PFOA, plume coming out of the base. This is from the firefighting foam that they continue to use. It's much worse than anybody ever thought. Ashima Pond is the most impacted PFAS contaminated water body in the entire state. They have declared health warnings for every pond in Mashpee, all of them. And and there were even divers that went down into the lower levels of Ashima and found multiple fish with lesions and other defects. So this is a big deal. And the base is supposed to be coming out with a master plan, and the town is really kind of, pushing forward, as well as Bourne and Falmouth and any other towns that, border the base, to push this master plan through, get it done quickly, get things in order, research where the plume is, and start attacking it immediately with reverse osmosis technology.
Yep.
So this is a really big deal, and it was quite an eye opener. It was Ashley from DNR that told us about it.
What kind of responsibility falls on the federal government?
100% of it, I would think, just like the FS1 plume at Quashnet, they had, that was an EPA Superfund cleanup site, and that's exactly what's gonna happen this time around, so.
Sounds like there's no luxury of foot dragging time.
Yeah.
but I also think with this, it begs the question of, could the base even handle 1,000 acres of clearing for a machine gun range when
Right.
those kind of contaminations are coming out of it? How could we possibly lose the filtration services
Yeah,
that the woodlands that are helping a little bit? I mean, it's really getting bad, it's getting worse, but like that they're providing something.
I think that's part of the master plan too, it's just like, look at the whole picture of what you guys are doing and.
There's a lot of
impact.
pushback on that range.
A ton, but there's like, they're still trying.
Oh, yeah, let's keep
Yeah.
pushing forward until, who knows when. Well, with all of that
That's really
bad
upsetting.
news, there was some good news on Monday night at the select board meeting. Town manager announced that the Supreme Court rejected the appeal for Gooseberry Avenue. So that project is not looking very good for the.
That's his last
That's
appeal.
it. I think that's the end of
So,
the-
or would you be looking at it if like a taking? Like with the town?
I don't know. I think
So
it's-
if that's gonna be apply for a different style, or he has options.
He might want to go back to the wooden bridge from the steel bridge, or that's,
But would
that's
the-
what he was saying, right?
Yeah,
Would the town consider offering to buy it?
well, they considered that a while back because of the amount of time, effort, and money they were spending with all of his appeals and,
Yeah.
it was decided that based on town council's feedback, and I'm not directly quoting town council, but in a nutshell, basically the town would end up spending more money fighting the legal battles over an actual taking, an eminent domain, and it would far exceed the value of that piece of land.
Is he willing to sell it? Do we know? Like if
Well,
it,
here's the deal with the gooseberry is that he's trying to prove that it's developable so he can sell it from $60,000 to $5 million.
right,
So that's what he's trying to do. Once he establishes, if he establishes that the island can be developed through zoning, Concom, Board of Health, whoever else, the price tag for that island goes up substantially, and that's what he's trying to do. So, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, a quick question, I guess it's directly related to water quality. Is there, have they started refilling the protective dune at South Cape Beach?
So Catherine let us know that that's underway. I don't know if they've actually gone out.
They haven't.
Literally today, she sent
Yeah.
photos.
So you got about 24 hours to get something in place, because it's gonna get hit again. big
Yeah,
time.
compared to last time, they were out there in a day and a half, 2 days.
I guess it's deep.
It was fast.
Real hard too.
Yeah,
That's bad.
I shot a video down there
Yeah.
in the middle of it, and the entire platform at the state beach looked like it was out in the water.
Yes,
And
So-
that
I
was,
saw that. It was on-
And, up at the golf club, their whole,
Yeah.
they have a
supposed to.
similar,
Yeah, it's gonna happen repeatedly.
That's gonna-
oh, I know, I know.
But
They were-
Was it doing it, the family? Was it family?
No, but it's
But
the
it's
whole, that
right at
whole
the
wooden
edge.
structure like it is at Southgate is empty.
Oh, okay. So-
And then that whole little big mountain they put there is gone.
if you
And then the whole
think
cliff
back,
is,
we've been up against in the last 2 years, now you look like what we're up against in the last 2 months. If you
Thank
can't
you.
see the exponential growth rate going on here, you get.
10-year Southgate Beach parking lot is no more,
Yeah,
and yeah, that's generous.
that's very generous. I'm thinking maybe one more year.
Yeah, it's possible. I
So
mean, it's a barrier beach and it's just losing ground daily.
CZ, I think it's CZM, there's some group that has, like, or maybe Coastal Zone Management Department, there's some department that launched an app where you take a picture of flooding through their app when you're out there, and it takes a photo point and it just documents change over time. But they've been doing it for several years. I have a friend that was on a Concom down Cape, and I was showing her pictures of the flooding from yesterday, and she's like, oh, did you load that in the app? And I was like, what app? And
Yeah.
she's like, yeah, I used to track all the time, and you can just like track it and then it maps.
FEMA app maybe?
I'm gonna get it and I'll send it to you guys, but,
Yeah, I'd be interested in that.
I know, because it would be interesting for us too, like when you're out there, when I'm, like whoever's out there seeing things, if we were uploading it and then we can look through and see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel like,
That is, I have to vote into two, and I'm voting on Sampson Island and Dead Neck. And they, a couple of years ago, they dredged the whole western end of Sampson Island to it and pumped it down to the Dead Neck end where the Oxbow jetties come out. And in like a year and a half, it's all gone now. I went down there today and the jetty's there and where the dune's gone, it's probably about 50 feet of dune gone, and just with water flowing right across. I was like, wow, I've never seen that my whole life, and I've been to it since I was 10.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
So, yeah, so that whole eastern end of Dead Neck is gonna
Yeah.
get washed away.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Somewhere in the country every day. I mean, you just
Yeah.
turn on the television, it's looking you right in the face, and sooner or later, you take your finger off.
Yeah, overall, the turnaround for DEP or DPW, when that happens, they get as quickly out there as possible.
It's amazing how quick they
How
do it.
fast they
The
get out
gate
there.
was locked today, so
Yeah,
I
it should
assumed
be.
they were getting in there to do something.
Usually when it happens, they lock the
They
gate.
lock the gate when it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they don't want people making it worse.
It was bad down there. Okay, I don't know if there's anything else in here that we need to go through.
No, I mean, just quick updates on the top take and, question, we have to schedule a public, at one of our public meetings, a public scoping feedback for the 50% level design plans for the upper question restoration. I suggest we do that when the agenda is not quite so loaded, but, top take, preparing bid documents for construction is quite the process. Town procurement laws, it's gonna be, it'll take a little while to put everything together and then have town council approve everything, but by this summer, late spring, early summer, construction is going to start at the top take. Restoring those fire law to wetlands. So that's gonna be great. We're in the last phase. This is the home stretch. And then there will be several years of monitoring and maintenance, and the Native Land Conservancy will be part of that, Horsey Wood Group will be part of that, we will be part of that.
Yeah.
So it's all coming togetger nicely.
Wow,
Yeah.
get Caitlin back for a little opening
She's the
ceremony.
one that's
Ribbon
starting,
cutting
and
or
also
something.
this kind of ribbon cutting ceremony or something.
You're really excited about that.
house to go away.
Caitlin wants to do that.
Um, So anybody have anything else, additional topics? No, we're good?
Like, we can do adjourn?
You could if you wanted. I don't know if you get
so be it.
second, but
But we're good.
motion made and seconded, Steve, you seconded that, right? Any discussion? No? Vote, Alex?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Steve?
Yep.
I vote yes as well. Meeting adjourned.
Good job, guys.
8:51, not bad, Alex. Well,
All right.
important ones take a long
I
time
know,
to
they
handle out.
do, they do, and
Yeah,
it will
that's
come
what
back a stronger and better project. For sure.
I get home, my dog just woke up at 7:30.